called NGIS, and Next Generation Incubation Scheme, in which Government of India provides not a much, but about 25 lakh rupees as a seed fund.
Good morning, sir. I would like to interrupt. We are live now.
Please carry on.
A warm welcome to the 6th edition of Digital Rajasthan Conclave, which the theme of which is strengthening self-reliant India through digitalization. In fact, this program was institutionalized with the support from STPI, and today we have reached the 6th edition of the program, and we have added an element of startups also to the program, and it has grown bigger and better with time. And there is a lot of thrust by the Government of India as well as the state government on the digitalization as well as the promotion of startups. So this platform provides an opportunity for all the stakeholders to interact, meet, discuss possible avenues and how to proceed further. Now with this ambitious target of reaching 1 trillion digital economy in the next few years, I think the theme is apt, and we have an eminent panel of speakers who would be speaking during this session, and we look forward to some ideas that will emerge out of this conclave on which we can work and proceed further and take the movement of digitalization and development of startups to the next level. And with these words, I would request Mr. Bimal Patwari, who chairs FICCI Rajasthan Subcommittee on Entrepreneurship and who is CEO of Pinnacle Infotech. A brief introduction: he is a first-generation entrepreneur and founder of Pinnacle Infotech, the global leader in BIM service to international engineering construction industry. And he started with a small setup in 1991, and Pinnacle has executed successfully 7,500 plus BIM projects over the last 30 years and has made India prominent in the map of global BIM industry. Some of the iconic projects Pinnacle has executed worldwide includes Jeddah Tower, LUSAIL Lusail Stadium, Lord's Cricket Ground, Compton and Edric Stands, Battersea Power Station, Intel Corporation, Amazon Data Center, IIT Bhilai, Dubai International Airport, C4, Ambuja City Center, Patna, Mashrib Phase 3, Doha, Qatar, Hazrat Shah Jalal International Airport, etc. Pinnacle has established 9 state-of-art global delivery centers across 7 countries in 5 continents. And Mr. Patwari is the driving force behind all this. So welcome you, sir, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Atulji. It is indeed a pleasure to be a part of this enclave. Good morning, everyone. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Rajneesh Agarwal, who is the Director of Software Technology Parks of India, Mr. Venkat Sriram Giri, who is the Director Advisory of E&Y, Mr. Uday Bonu, who is the Vice President, Head of Government Affairs at SAP India, Mr. Ajay Singha, Advisor, FICCI Rajasthan State Council, Mr. Atul Sharma, Head of FICCI Rajasthan State Council, and all the participating delegates. It is indeed an honor and proud privilege to be amongst all of you in this 6th edition of Digital Rajasthan Conclave today. Over the years, this initiative has become a long way and has engaged multiple stakeholders of IT and ITS industry as well as the startups ecosystem. I still remember how this digital enclave has evolved over the 6 years, and every year it has become stronger, and it is now more and more people are participating and benefiting from this initiative from FICCI. Friends, digital innovation has been disrupting nations and industries worldwide with proliferating automation, internet penetration, and the booming telecom sector. A decade ago, digital was just another word for information technology. And if you look at it, I think the digital revolution really was brought by the Indian Railways. If you remember, before the railways were computerized, if you have to book a ticket from Jaipur to, say, Delhi, and there are 10 trains, so there was a queue for every train, there were 10 counters, and it was so difficult, it was not transparent, there was so much of problems, and people realized when we were able to book online, or we were able to book our tickets, that's when I think the Indian digital revolution really started, and today it has really spread everywhere. In an age where innovation has become a rule, the value generated by digitalization has redefined consumer expectations, transformed business operating models, and unlocked broader societal benefits. Today, India has achieved substantial success in application of latest technology innovations, including AI, IoT, 5G technology, augmented reality, virtual reality, cloud, robotics, digital payments. I mean, isn't it so, uh, it brings so much of happiness that today at the most economically poor people and people with minimum education are also able to use their phone to make digital payments. I mean, 5 years back, it would have been a dream, it would have been unbelievable, but today India has achieved that. India is one of the largest and fastest growing markets for digital consumers. More than 120 crore people are already enrolled in Aadhaar. And GST has brought more than 10 million businesses onto a common digital platform. I think these two initiatives by the Indian government also has gone a long way in transforming and digitalizing the Indian society. India already has more than 650 million internet users, and it is expected to increase between 75 crores to 80 crores by 2023. There are more than 1.1 billion mobile connections in India, equivalent to almost 79% of our population, which is amazing. The number of smartphones is also expected to increase to almost 65 crores. Today, I think one of the reasons for the rapid digitalization has been the reduction in data costs. The data costs today have declined by 95% if we compare with 2013. Another big change has been brought by the startup ecosystem. India has emerged as the third largest ecosystem for startups globally, with over 60,770 startups registered across 636 districts of the country as of 22nd December 2021. So you can see the spread of the startup ecosystem across 636 districts. Startup funding grew 3 times in 2021, touching almost $39 billion. And more than 40 startups joined the exclusive Unicorn Club last year. Friends, new digital ecosystems are already visible, reshaping consumer-producer interactions in the agriculture, healthcare, retail, logistics, and other sectors. Even if you look at the rural agriculture, there are startups like Dehat. I must mention that, who are connecting all the rural agricultural our farmers and educating them and connecting them to the large buyers like Pepsi and ITC. So the whole cost of transaction between the producer and the end user has reduced significantly, and it is very good for our Indian economy. In healthcare today, patients can turn to teleconsultations via digital voice, which has really become popular. And I think the pandemic has further accelerated the adoption of digitalization in India. Friends, the productivity unlocked by the digital economy could create almost 60 million jobs. These are all very rosy pictures that I have given, but there are some challenges also which we need to be aware. First of all, because of the digitalization, a huge population will need retraining and redeployment. It is almost estimated that 40 million to 45 million workers could have their jobs displaced or transformed. Once again, there is a lot of apprehension that digitalization will reduce manpower, which is not true. The history is the proof. Whenever, the banks were computerized, the ATMs came up, the desktop publishing came, people thought that the employment in the banks will go down, but it has not. The banks today employ much more people, although it is so much automated. So, but what is required is the retraining and redeployment. Even the banks, every employee had to be retrained and redeployed for the new technology and the adoption of the new platform. Similarly, there is one more challenge that we have, is that there is an uneven adoption of digital technology across companies. In fact, there is a McKinsey report which says that company in the top quartile, like the top 25%, which we consider as digital leaders, had an average digital adoption score of 58.2, whereas the bottom 25% had an adoption of 33.2. So this huge gap that is there in the adoption, we really need to bridge this gap, and we need to ensure that the gains of the digital economy is equally transformed and is equally available to everyone across the rural, across our different caste society, rural and urban population. Friends, I'm proud to share that Rajasthan is already moving very fast to realize the vision of digital Rajasthan and digital India as a whole. There is a comprehensive e-governance architecture in place. We have a vast pool of talented and young people who are and who can act as change agents in realizing our shared vision of creating a developed society with technology as an enabler. From my personal experience, like Pinnacle, we started a state-of-the-art technology center in 2017. And I'm proud to share with all of you that from Jaipur office, 150 engineers and architects, they engineered the complete FIFA World Cup stadium in Qatar, the Lusail Stadium, which is going to host the FIFA World Cup in this year, in December. And it is a great, proud moment for our state that we have such talent. We have people. It's just giving everybody a platform to perform, to give them the tools to enable them. And I think FICCI has done a wonderful thing by having these enclaves, by popularizing this digitalization. The theme of the 6th edition of Digital Rajasthan Conclave, Strengthening Self-Reliant India Through Digitalization, is very, very appropriate when the country aims for $1 trillion digital economy over the next few years. Today, we have a dedicated session addressing our theme and a panel discussion on leveraging digital leap for socio-economic transformation. FICCI is committed to work closely with the government and other stakeholders so as to put Rajasthan and the nation at large in a bright spot. We are glad to provide a platform for collaboration of stakeholders from different industries to develop a new solution for our future. We have great speakers and panelists today, and I thank all of you for attending this conclave, and I wish you all the best for the whole day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patwari, for setting such a wonderful context for the Digital Rajasthan Conclave today. In fact, you have rightly said that the pandemic has accelerated the adoption of digital technology. In fact, we were able to minimize the impact of the pandemic on our lives, our businesses, our education, all the spheres of our life, because we have invested over the years in the digital technology. And as you said, it creates more jobs, and maybe there are some kind of job which are become redundant, but there are many more which are created through adoption of digital technologies. And reskilling, upskilling is very important, as you mentioned. And digital divide is something that we have to bridge it, and all the stakeholders have to collectively work through that, how we take this from the larger corporates to the MSMEs to the small and micro industries, and similarly to the urban and rural divide, which we often talk about. And a big round of applause for your team for designing the FIFA World Cup stadium at Qatar. And we look forward to many more such projects in future. And with this, we move to our next speaker, who is Mr. Venkat Ramamurthy Shri Ramagiri, who is Director Advisory Ernst& Young. And in fact, he has 20 years of consulting and industry experiencing in driving capital project delivery, capex optimization, and asset management programs in the private and public infrastructure sector space. He has more than a decade of experience in consulting and delivering large-scale infrastructure products through program management, capex optimization, and capacity building initiatives. In addition, he has experience with government and public sector, having worked on projects with various government ministries and agencies. So over to you, Mr. Venkat.
Thank you so much, Atulji. I hope I am audible.
Yeah, audible, visible, both, please.
Good morning, everyone. It's indeed a pleasure to be, addressing this particular conclave. So that was a really, interesting and thought-provoking initial, context setting by Bimal. And I think what I will try to do now is, maybe get into a little more nuts and bolts of the theme that we are referring to. I have, a page that I would like to project. So if Rahul, you could help me with that, and maybe I'll use that to speak through what I have to say. Rahul, could you?
Yeah, I'm just doing it.
Sure. Yes. So the topic is strengthening self-reliant India through digitization. And when I thought through this and recounted my experience in the consulting field, I thought what would be interesting would be to really look at what are some of these key areas where self-reliance is key, and digitalization really plays a transformative role. So when I have explored a few of the themes in the interest of time, and looked at it a little deeper. I could have explored more themes, but for me, these 5 themes were really key to the self-reliant India, the Atmanirbhar Bharat story. The 5 areas are quality digital education at scale. So if I am a common man or an budding entrepreneur, or really at any strata of society, quality digital education has played a very key role, especially in the time of this particular pandemic. So that is theme number 1. Theme number 2 is easy and affordable credit access. If I am, a micro, medium, small, enterprise, what I would require is easy and affordable credit access. And I will delve into how digitalization has really played a major role in ensuring that has happened. The third area is quality medical care. And again, the transformative effect of digitalization is there for everyone to see. The fourth is cost-effective logistics. I will delve into the PM Gati Shakti and how the government has now really started thinking in terms of multimodality of the logistics and how to really make an impact on the logistics costs. And the fifth is the high-speed internet. So these 5 areas I have taken as themes to really explore how India has become self-reliant, and how really the sky is the limit when we look at these 5 areas and really taking it to the next level. So let me take it theme by theme. First, I will talk about access to digital education at scale. So in a country blessed with a demographic dividend, lack of proper education across the board will prove a major hurdle in India becoming a superpower. And with the advent of the pandemic, there have been significant increase in high school dropout rates, especially in rural India, where access to smartphones and internet have been a major barrier limiting the possibility of online education. In such a scenario, startups like, I will quote Byju's, but there are many, have come up with initiatives like Education for All and the Give initiatives where refurbished devices are being provided to underprivileged children. So this could only be possible, where in an ecosystem where startups like Byju's are allowed to, not only survive but really thrive. So this is one area which I feel really has taken off, as a result of the digitalization. Next is easy and affordable to credit, especially to MSMEs. So I will Neil Karni, ex-head of Infosys and ex-chairman of UIDAI, who spoke of 3 areas which required transformational interventions from a technology perspective. Identity validation, which was solved by the Aadhaar. You had the digital payments, which was solved using the UPI, which was a 24/7 interoperable digital payment system, and data empowerment. The whole idea of the account aggregator framework as part of data empowerment, is a affordable access to credit using which, alleviation of some of this information asymmetry will happen. The giving of loans, to many of these MSMEs, which has really been an issue because a bank really doesn't have the information to be able to really understand and, provide loans to MSMEs. That asymmetry will get removed once the account aggregator framework will come into place. So this is really a very big area, and digitalization has a very, very big role to play here. The third area is quality medical care. I mean, we talk of telemedicine, we talk of telehealth, tele-ICU. These are really enabling even the impoverished and underprivileged to access basic healthcare. Teleconsulting and e-pharmacy are enabling Indian healthcare providers to respond to rising demand and giving patients confidence to manage their health effectively in the times of COVID. Startups like Practo come to mind, who are leading the way. Cost-effective logistics. Now with the launch of the PM Gati Shakti, there is a completely new way of looking at logistics infra development in the country that is driven by digital applications. We talk of a national level master plan which is being envisaged with the ultimate goal to bring down India's logistics cost, which is currently at 13 to 14% of GDP. Here, instead of individual ministries like the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Ministry of Railways, Ministry of Shipping, Ministry of Aviation, Ministry of Telecommunication, etc., looking at respective infrastructure projects in silos, there will be an empowered group comprising of secretaries across ministries taking an informed decision, jointly aided by the network planning group. But at the core will be a GIS-based application driven by analytics-based decision support models that will enable mode choice modeling. The outcome here will be an optimal multimodal connectivity for commodity flows. So again, we see that in every area of, whether it is logistics, whether it is education, at the core of it, at most places, you will find a digital core. And lastly, I will talk about high-speed internet across the country. The bulwark of all the previously discussed themes is a strong internet backbone. And the PM Vani scheme I will refer to, which for provision of broadband through public Wi-Fi hotspot providers has immense potential for proliferation of affordable broadband access to realize the vision of digital India. Similarly, BharatNet scheme that has been launched by the government, of India under the Digital India program to provide high-speed digital connectivity of internet in rural areas at very affordable prices, another notable aspect. This high-speed digital connectivity will provide, optical fiber. And at state level, we see states like Telangana have launched flagship programs like T-Fiber, which aim to provide high-speed internet to rural parts across the state. So in conclusion, I will just summarize saying that these are some of the themes where digitalization has had a transformative experience in, taking things from where they were to absolutely a different level altogether. So I will stop here and I will give it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Venkat, for that crisp overview of impact of digitalization and how it's going to make business and lives seamless in times to come. And Now we move on to our next speaker, who is Mr. Uday Bonu, Vice President, Head of Government Affairs, India and South Asia, SAP India Private Limited. In fact, he is responsible for policy, thought leadership, and strategic engagement with the government of in the Indian subcontinent. He is an outcome-focused professional with extensive and diverse experience across more than 24 years of strategic consulting and IT-enabled business transformation. His experience spans across industries, including telecom, utilities, manufacturing, supply chain, retail, and especially public sector and higher education in Australia, New Zealand, and Sweden markets. So we welcome you, Mr. Uday, and look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much, Atul. And thank you for actually giving me the opportunity to be part of this 6th Rajasthan, Digital Rajasthan Conclave. It's an absolute privilege to be part of this panel, to share at least my point of view based on the way, and I've actually found it quite riveting to hear Bimal talk so passionately about some of the things that are being done already in especially in Rajasthan. And I think my conversation would be more I think there's a lot that you can give kudos to what's already been achieved in India and of course in Rajasthan. So I will not try and analyze or try and talk about what's already been done, but what my conversation really will be around, if I could share my screen, hopefully you can see my screen. So what I would like to present my point of view is what we call a few global transformation themes. And I think if India's ambition to be self-reliant, and because self-reliance is not an end goal, it's a journey that keeps evolving because the world is evolving and we are part of a world global ecosystem. So despite all the challenges with the pandemic, I think Atul, you mentioned as well, is it actually created a rapid digitalization. It's an event that driven digitalization like no other, at least not in my lifetime. So the political and the social and the business leaders are increasingly looking for ways to cope with these challenges and the opportunities it presents to actually create sustainable businesses. Right. So let me talk through, share with you what we see they are. Now, there are 10 themes, and I think Venkat covered about it as well. The reality is you can always see this from many, many lenses. So this is not to say that these are the only 10 and the world will be a better place, but these are the 10 things that I think that are going to be both impacted and will also are the cause for this rapid digitalization and the economic transformation that will happen through it. So Gati Shakti was mentioned about it. So integrated mobility is a thing that is being done by most countries because the whole rapid urbanization and the amount of traffic for sustainability, for a number of reasons, integrated mobility that is actually cross mobility from a planning point of view all the way from actually even running them to make it. This is about humans. This is not about vehicles. This is not about solving a traffic or making it better for the cars, but it's about how to make this better for humans to live and of course prosper. So the second aspect is sustainable energy. We talk about energy aspects, and this model is actually substantially disrupted. And I've actually read a quote somewhere that 100-year business model where a grid-based electricity being distributed top-down is fundamentally disrupted already in so many countries. It is already the prosumers, the new word or the new model where the consumer is also producing. So that business model is driving another element of digitization. And these are already happening here as well, but there's a lot more to happen. The speed will be greater, the scale will be greater. lifelong health. And I think we are obviously lucky to talk, everyone who's got good health is lucky. That is the best possession that every human can even can dream of, right? So this is something that will, if we as humans, if we are not healthy and we're not healthy society, then we're actually just doing firefighting and not living the life. Education and work, and again, this was touched around by both Bimal and Venkat as well. The skills need, this is not about just giving new skills to the K to 12, but this is about reskilling, because this generation is in a stage where they need to reskill, they need to unskill sometimes, right? So how do you do that? And again, digitization plays a significant role. The circular economy, this is something that I will deep dive shortly as well, but this is almost fundamentally about how we can't keep just consuming the way we've been consuming over the last many decades, but we need to start looking at as well, how do we regenerate faster than we consume? It's a human challenge, it's a human opportunity. Now, trusted products. We all know as individual consumers, we all are, is the trust in a product makes a big difference in consumption, in economic sustainability, in sovereignty, in every aspect of life. Everything that we want to buy, we want to trust it. So how do we make sure that that trust is built? Again, digitization plays a huge role in it. Future of finance, and again, banking is already gone through. I think Venkat or Bimal talked about this. Is this whole UPI, how much it has transformed the payments for even the most illiterate, if I could even use that expression anymore, is even the people who don't know how to read, that are using digital devices and actually dealing with banking and finance and payments. But I think that's going to go a much more rapid change at a business to business and economy to economy level through smart contracts and technologies like those. Inclusive cities, and I think we know there's a lot of talk about, of course, smart cities. I think we need to move away from thinking about it being city, but it's about making it livable and valuable for every person in the society. How do we do that? Again, digital will drive that inclusion. It's not going to make it inclusive, but it's going to be a significant enabler in inclusion. And finally, digital global supply chains. I think this pandemic has really brought to the surface the dependency of countries and the dependency of people to make decisions, the dependency of even workforce, not just products, right? All of this is fundamentally built on trust, right? And I was just reading an article just yesterday about that the trust at the moment globally is at an all-time low on government institutions and media. Now, that is a huge problem, right? Because without trust, you cannot motivate and you cannot take the people with you on the journey. I think this is a challenge that definitely we need to look at. Again, digital plays a significant role to to clarify this misinformation, build the trust. So you can almost treat the thing on the corner as almost an enabler, as a foundational thing for everything else. I will not try and cover all of these things in detail in the short time that I've got, but let me talk briefly about a couple of things. And if time permits, of course, we'll talk about more of it. Now, there is research evidence that Western economies are already spending 11% of their GDP on health. Some of them are actually even spending 20% of their GDP in some of these economies. Now, we may think that it is a Western economy problem. I would say if we look at it ourselves and if we measure ourselves, it may not be as high as that when it comes to GDP, but certainly the cost of health for individuals and as an economy should have gone substantially high. Now, that is not sustainable. Now, fortunately, we've seen through our experience in COVID pandemic that digital can be an enabler. You already heard examples from Venkat about telehealth. We're talking about immunity passports. We're talking about no longer going and waiting in the waiting rooms of the doctors, and all of that creates so much unproductivity, right? We never thought that it was a tool or a way to actually help people to deal a diagnosis, even treatment. Now all of that at a speed that was unimaginable, that's been proven that it could be done. Now, I think what we really see it moving is using data for more real-time evidence. So we're talking about coming up with medicines and treatments that now evidence that is real-time, almost faster than ever imaginable, right? And I think this is where we can combine this with the point that's right up there on the top is, I think we are all actually a lot more health conscious than we've ever been before, because we've been given data. We've got devices on ourselves everywhere telling you what's wrong with you, what could be wrong with you. So we can actually be self-driven. So digital is pervasive, as of course, but it is actually driving it from the consumer and the patient onwards. Now, the next one is the circular economy. This is something that just anecdotally, and I'll try to read because I don't remember these statistics quite well. We reuse apparently only 9% of the resources that we extract from this universe, only 9%. And on top of it, we're consuming at 1.75 times faster than we're generating in this world. And imagine that we're going to add another billion people by 2030, right? So this is not somebody else's problem or a problem for a Western country or another nation. This is our problem. This is our problem too, to solve it, because if we consume our resources that we got faster than we can produce, we will suffer the consequences. But that is seen in a negative way. The positive way to see that is, imagine if India and all of our startups that Bimal talked about, that wonderful ecosystem, if they take this opportunity to create products, to create services that are circular in nature, right? We will be global leaders, right? Because everyone will see how frugally this could be solved, because I've seen every solution that look around in this country, we do the frugal solutions. We solve these things at a very low cost, with a very fast effective. It could be used by a person that doesn't need to go and get trained in a class, right? So this is something that India is really good at, but we really need to treat this as a huge opportunity, not a problem that we can just delay because it's not something that we're causing. This is something that we need to take upon us and do something about. Now, I will not try and talk about these two things in detail because I think I'm running out of time. I think global supply chains, Rajasthan, and then ultimately India is part of a global supply chain, both as a consumer and as a provider. So we really need to think about how we fit into that value chain. How do we show transparency to our value chain, to our buyers and producers? Because without that, we will be left out of the conversation, right? And it is real. It is already happening right now. So this is something that we got to embrace and be part of this value chain and make sure that everybody sees us as a very sustainable producer and a sustainable consumer as well. This has already been talked about by Venkat quite well as well. I think we definitely need to look at not about talking about the schools and the IITs and the IIMs. We got to talk about the last person standing. How do we make sure that we make them digital, give them the technology so that they can be part of this digital ecosystem and the digitalization agenda we're talking about? And finally, this is about trust and safety, as I mentioned. Now, I think the digitalization, of course, has created this problem as well, that there's so much misinformation, social media has exaggerated it. So of course, that has created the problem. But I think it can also be solved by technology, but by us all trying to apply it and make sure we take the necessary safeguards, and we educate people, empower people to take trust and safety into their own hands. Now, I was reading about it from the Rajasthan being the largest state by land and the 7th largest by population and GDP contribution. Obviously, it has the potential to become the number one, because if you look at it in 3 industries, services being the largest and agriculture being the second, manufacturing the third, those 3 industries, especially the first one, is substantially going to grow like leaps and bounds because of digitalization. And I think Rajasthan has an opportunity to become number one, just equal to its landmass. And I would congratulate Vicky for again organizing this event, and I wish everyone a successful event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Uday, for giving us the 10 transformation ideas, agendas, and how things will shape up in future. And now we have with us Dr. Rajneesh Agarwal, who is Director of Software Technology Parks of India. And Dr. Rajneesh is a 1987 batch engineering services officer. Prior to joining STPI in 2014, he has served with Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology for about 28 years in various capacities, including R&D, international cooperation, and ESDM sectors. He is profoundly contributing for growth of not only statutory services related to IT exports, but also high-speed data communication services, incubation services, implementation of IBPS, NGIS, and setting up of Center of Entrepreneurship for new and emerging technologies. He authored many books like Multimedia Systems, Data Communication and Networking, and as well as several papers and study materials. So we welcome you, Dr. Agarwal, and we thank you for your support. In fact, it took us 6 editions to have your presence at Digital Rajasthan Conclave. And over to you, sir. You are on mute.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Atul, giving me this opportunity and reading my profile. And I extend my namaskar and good morning to everyone, and greetings from STPI to distinguished panelist Sri Ajay Singh ji, Advisor FICCI Rajasthan, Sri Uday Bonu, Vice President SAP India Private Limited, Sri Venkat Raman Murthy, Director E&Y, Sri Vimal Patwari, FICCI Rajasthan, Sri Atul Sharma, who is moderating this program. He is from FICCI Rajasthan. He is also from FICCI Rajasthan. And our industry representatives, members who are all connected to this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a pleasure for me and a pride for me to be a part of this event and address you all and share my thoughts with you people here. As all we know, and as Mr. Atul has mentioned also, that FICCI, in association with Software Technology Parks of India, has been organizing this event for last 5 years, and this is the 6th edition. And we will say that we are fortunate that in all these events, STPI is partner with FICCI, and it is always the motive of STPI to promote industry in the country, particularly for the growth of the export. But in general, STPI is promoting industry, and now our main thrust and emphasis on the growth of startup in the country, in line with the program of the Prime Minister of India. The theme of this year's event is strengthening self-reliant India through digitization, is very much in sync with the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister of India of Atmanirbhar Bharat. And as all speakers so far have mentioned, that this pandemic has been taken not as a kind of curse, or not kind of we can say to hurdle in our growth, but it has been taken as an opportunity. And this digital technology has seen progress in leap and bounds through this period of time. And our all speakers so far have mentioned about this. And as in the beginning, our first speaker, Mr. Vimal Patwari, has mentioned that we have investment around 40 billion US dollar in our startup ecosystem. And we have about 43 startups who have become unicorn in previous year. Previous years means from 1st January 21 to this 31st December 2021. And we have more than 25 startups which are Sumicorn. Sumicorn means the startup supposed to likely to become unicorn soon. And in this particular year, we are expecting that we will cross the century, that we will cross 100 startup as a unicorn in the country. So far, we have achieved the place of third place globally in terms of startup. And I will say that STPI is putting a lot of emphasis. I will come back on that point later on the growth of these startup, as I have been mentioned in the beginning of my address already. And as you people know very well, I think it is needless to mention, but for the sake of other listeners and other people who are connected here, that that STPI was set up in 91 as an autonomous society under the Ministry of Electronics and IT. But at that time, it used to be called as Department of Electronics and was directly under Prime Minister in 1991 when this was set up. And STPI's main objective during all this period has been promotion of software exports from the country. And STPI has played a key role in the promotion of software exports, and is with a special focus on small, medium enterprises and startup units. At present, STPI has 62 centers across the country. We have just added in last month only one center in Meerut, and Meerut is also NCR area, and this center has just started, and we are now seeing a lot of inquiries and requests from local people of Meerut to get incubation space there and other kind of services from STPI from there. So in this manner, STPI will play a key role in promoting this IT and ITS business around NCR region also. Out of this 62 centers, we have 52 centers are in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And it is always emphasis of STPI to bring this IT revolution to tier 2 and tier 3 cities, and for which STPI has come out in association with Government of India with number of policies, and now we are putting emphasis to develop and nurture startups in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. STPI is also implementing, as I have told, in association with Government of India. STPI is implementing number of schemes of Government of India, and these schemes are like STP, ESTP scheme, which is mainly for promotion of export from the country. Then IBPS scheme, as I have told, that STPI has gone to tier 2 and tier 3 cities. IBPS is a Indian BPO promotion scheme, and which was designed mainly for tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And that scheme has now closed and is a very successfully closed. And we have created more than 50,000 employment through this scheme across the country. And now we are planning to bring this scheme in a revised form. And for that, we are in discussion with our Ministry of Electronics and IT. And let us see what will happen. Then similarly, we have a NEBPS scheme. This is a separate scheme for India BPO promotion in a same line of India BPO promotion scheme. But its main emphasis was only on Northeast states. And other than this, we have our one more scheme. It is called NGIS, Next Generation Incubation Scheme. This scheme is basically designed in keeping in mind that countries should develop its own IPs and its patents, so that we can promote Indian products through this scheme. And so far, we have conducted 2 rounds of selection of startup across the country. And this scheme also covers only tier 2 and tier 3 cities, and so far there are 12 districts which are included in this scheme. Later on that can be expanded. And now coming to the state of Rajasthan, STPI Jaipur was established in 1998 with office at Gaurav Tower, Malviya Nagar, Jaipur, and was later on moved to Sitapura, EPIP, in 2003 on the built-up space of about 3,800 square feet allotted by Government of Rajasthan through RICO. And now, as I have during just discussion with panelists at the beginning of this program, now we are adding there about 15,000 square feet additional space within the same building as an incubation space, and that space is almost ready. And there are only 1 month work is left there, and after that, that space will be open for allotment to willing companies for incubation. And along with that, as a STPI Jaipur, we are also putting emphasis to create one center of entrepreneurship in Jaipur in the area of fintech, and for which we are in discussion with state government as well as RICO also, because RICO is also coming with fintech park in a large scale in Jaipur. Considering all this thing and the you can say the vastness of the this Rajasthan state, we also set up one more center in Jodhpur in 2005, and now we are catering, and this center in Jodhpur is about 10,000 square feet area, and in future, if required, we can also expand this center also. Once we have done some feasibility study for expansion of this center, but at that time we decided it is not very much required to expand the same, but in future we can take up for expansion of this center. And so far we have about 84 IT-ITS units which are registered with STPI in state of Rajasthan, and they have exported software worth of about 1,500 crores approximately in the previous financial year, that is year 2021. With this, we can say that Jaipur or this Rajasthan is growing in terms of IT-ITS sector, and that's why STPI along with the Ministry of Electronics and IT is putting a special emphasis for this growth in the country for this sector. And this sector employ about 17,000 people directly in the IT sector in the state of Rajasthan, and majorly in Jaipur, I will say. And STPI is also providing more than 1.5 Gbps internet bandwidth to around 50 customers in the state of Rajasthan. Today, the nation's digital scope is immense, and digital potential is unparalleled, as all speakers have already told about all this thing. India's IT and digital sector are playing a key role in the nation's development story. Government is having a strong focus on digital adoption. There are so many digital technologies like artificial intelligence, machine language, gaming and animation, cloud computing, cyber security, blockchain technology, Internet of Things, 5G technology, augmented reality and virtual reality, cloud, robotics, drones technology, digital payments, etc., which are the emerging technologies. And Government of India as well as STPI both are taking these as their objectives to develop all these technologies in the country through different modes. Those modes may be through startup, through development of or through promotion of small and medium scale enterprises. And for this, we are creating a strong startup ecosystem in the country. And so far, we have set up about 20 center of entrepreneurship or COE across the country in different domains. And the domains which I have mentioned here, we are covering all those domains through our this center of entrepreneurship. And I will say that so far we have added more than 1,000 startup in the kitty of our nation total startup story or total startup ecosystem. And in order to build leadership and to build next wave of building entrepreneurship in the emerging sectors of technology, like as I have mentioned earlier also, like IoT, blockchain, fintech, AI, AR, VR, ESDM, data science and analytics, medical electronics and healthcare, gaming and innovation, machine language, machine learning, cyber security, etc. STPI has set up, as I have mentioned, Center of Excellences or Center of Entrepreneurship in these areas. And we have about 5 more Center of Entrepreneurship in pipeline to come or to see day of light in this current year. And by this, we will have more than 25 Center of Entrepreneurship. Out of these 25, we have 8 Center of Entrepreneurship in northeastern area only, and those are called Octane. Octane means 8, and that's why we have given the name Octane. And we have given all Center of Entrepreneurship name based on their themes. Like we have AI, AR, BR Center of Entrepreneurship in Mohali, and we have named it as a Neuron. We have named Apiary as a Blockchain Technology Center of Entrepreneurship in Gurugram. In this manner, we have a number of Center of Entrepreneurship through which we are promoting startup in the country. These Center of Entrepreneurship are not only providing the incubation space, but also they are providing the complete, you can say, the ecosystem. We are providing their state-of-the-art laboratories also. Whether these are the software laboratories or the hardware laboratories, we are providing all those kind of laboratories there. We have pool of mentors, all known or distinguished name in the country. They are with us in our pool of mentors. And we have also pool of investors also. And whenever any startup has achieved prototype, MVP, minimum viability product kind of thing, that startup is brought before this investor for demo kind of thing. And in this manner, we try to provide investment also. And many startup, they have got investment. And if you want, you can go visit the STPI site or you will find all details there. As a policy enabler, STPI has been bringing out futuristic scheme propose this technological advancement. And we have come out with a scheme called NGIS, as I told earlier. And that scheme is designed in line with the our national policy on software products approved by the Government of India. And we are nurturing and we are providing seed fund along with all this ecosystem, seed fund to a startup to take this thing. And now I will not take much time here. And with this, I just want to close my this address, and will like to thank you all you people to listening me patiently. And I am very much open to all people who are there on the dais, as well as the people who are connected in this webinar. STPI is always open, and will be happy to have any kind of collaborative program with you people and any kind of cooperation from you people with regard to development of this center of entrepreneurship in the country, as well as development of or growth of MSMEs. Any kind of suggestions, any kind of policy related suggestions which you people can provide us for the growth of MSMEs, particularly in the tier 3 cities, you people are welcome to connect with me or send all those your views or opinion by email to me. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. In fact, thank you for taking us through the various schemes and initiatives of STPI and your special impetus on promotion of entrepreneurship and startups. In fact, during this program, later during the day, we have a panel discussion that is focused on startups being curated by the Startup Voices that talks about the leveraging digital leap for socio-economic transformation. And we will definitely explore avenues for collaboration in areas of startup and policy interventions as you suggested, and we will definitely reach out to you for any help and support required in this regard. And before I invite Mr. Singha, I would like to take a quick 1 minute closing comments from our speakers, starting with Mr. Bimal Patwari. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, all my distinguished panelists. I think it was a very nice interaction, and the framework that was presented by Mr. Venkat and Mr. Uday was really nice, because those are the areas which we really need to work on. And it's very important that the digital divide that we have in our country needs to be bridged. We need to bring every section of our society together for our overall progress and development. So I really wish all the best to all the panelists and all the attendees today for this conclave. And thank you, everyone. And thanks, Vicky, for organizing this.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Uday.
Thank you, Atul. I can only say thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I really appreciate your sharing our point of view and hearing the points of view from other esteemed speakers. And I think we would love to be part of the dialogue and be involved in Rajasthan's digitalization. So best wishes for the event, for the rest of the event. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Mr. Venkat is not connected right now. And now I would.
Am I audible?
Yeah. Please. Please.
Am I visible as well? Or
yeah, visible. Your name was.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah. So just thank you so much for thank you to Vicky for organizing this conclave, and it's just been amazing listening to all the speakers. And really the multiple angles in which we are all looking at digitalization was a real eye-opener. And I think, as rightly mentioned by Bimal as well as Uday, I think taking now Rajasthan to the next level in terms of the digitalization initiatives is really something I'm also very much looking forward to. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Agarwal, you would like to add something, or we proceed further?
Yeah, thank you very much, Vicky, for organizing this event. And I congratulate Vicky that today's this, you can say, opening ceremony. Only one speaker left, and I will not deny, and it is undisputable, that potential of this digital technology cannot be ignored, and this digital potential of this technology during this pandemic has proved its immense value, and all speakers have covered about all these things. And with this, I hope that all participants and members from the IT/ITES industry has got benefited from, or will get benefited from this event. And from this conclave, and I think at the end of this digital Rajasthan conclave, we will achieve some fruitful results, which will be we will take as our takeaways, and will be able to implement in our future actions and work. Thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you, sir. And now I would request Mr. Ajay Singha, Advisor, FICCI Rajasthan State Council, for the vote of thanks. Mr. Singha is a former Executive Director of American Chamber of Commerce in India. And prior to that, he has worked at Indo-German Chamber of Commerce and rose to become the Deputy Director General. Worked on a lot of policy projects, extensively traveled with immense experience and international exposure. Over to you, Mr. Singha.
Thank you, Atul. Well, I'd like to start by extending my sincere thanks on behalf of FICCI to the distinguished speakers. Dr. Rajneesh Agarwal, thank you once again, sir, for the continued support which you give to FICCI for not only Digital Rajasthan, but also the otherwise. Thank you very much. You mentioned about the 3 unicorn startups in recent months, and mentioned about how the new space is becoming available. Thank you. I think that information will be greatly well received by the people in the state as well outside. To Venkat Sri Ramgiri, Director Advisory, Ernst & Young, E&Y. Venkat, you mentioned about and especially touched upon the transformation role of digitalization vis-a-vis education, credit access, medical care, and of course the logistics and high-speed internet availability, and how that is going to greatly improve the situation here. Thank you for your time, Venkat, for being with us. Mr. Uday Bonu, who's Vice President and Head of Government Affairs, SAP India, and Mr. Bonu, you also, thank you very much for sparing some insights and sharing them with us on some of the other aspects for transforming the society, especially inclusive cities, and you mentioned about the circular economy and the role of trust and so forth. Mr. Bonu, you rightly appreciated the work, the good work which is already done by the state of Rajasthan towards the whole process of digitalization, much before this became such a strong, catchword in the Indian context. This was further accelerated, as you all know, by the onset of COVID. Thank you very much for being with us, Mr. Bonu. Of course, Mr. Bimal Patwari, who's our own, from FICCI, thank you very much, CEO Pinnacle Infotech, for such an enlightening session. You always are able to set the tone, Mr. Patwari, for such a good discussion which is likely to follow now. There are speakers, Mr. Bindal from Mahindra World City, Mr. Grover from Nagaro, Ajay Gupta from SCS, Mahapatra from Aris Communication, and Mr. Yaqub from Flipkart. We are indeed very much looking forward to their contribution as well as the session progresses. I would like to thank all our partners supporting the event today, namely Software Technology Parks of India, STPI, Extensible IT Solutions, Pinnacle Infotech, and Startup Oasis. Thank you very much. And back to you, Atul.
Thank you, Mr. Singha. And with this, we come to the close of the inaugural session of the 6th edition of Digital Rajasthan Conclave. And moving on to the next session, that is on the theme of the program, Strengthening Self-Reliant India Through Digitalization. This will be chaired by Mr. Anuj Bindal, who is member FICCI Rajasthan State Council and heads the Business Development and Marketing at Mahindra World City Limited, Jaipur. And he has 25+ years of experience in sales, marketing, consulting services, customer services, and new business development in diversified industries, including IT, product and services, insurance, and retail. And prior to joining Mahindra Group, he was driving investment and advisory business for DT International Property Advisory Services in North India. which included fund syndication, asset restructuring, and merger and acquisition. So with these words, I request Mr. Bindal to take charge of the session, and over to you.
Thank you, Atul. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, my fellow speakers, delegates, and wish you and your family a very happy, healthy, and a successful New Year 22. I would like to firstly thank my fellow speakers on behalf of ICI to find time to be part of the Digital Rajasthan Conclave and part of the session for strengthening self-reliant India through digitization. As you all are aware, for last 2 years, world has been going through a deadly period of pandemic and suffering. During this period, Government of India took multiple measures to boost economic growth and development. India clearly plans to convert this crisis into an opportunity and strengthen its fight by becoming Atmanirbhar or self-reliant, which is also the theme for the session. Today, India has achieved substantial success in application of latest technology innovation, including AI, IoT, 5G technology, which is also here to come, cloud computing, digital payments, and etc., which is applicable and useful to citizens across spectrum of society and across various industries in infrastructure, logistics, real estate, manufacturing, and service sector. This has ensured world to look towards India with optimism and confidence to provide sustainable technology and empowered solutions. As a country, we have unparalleled potential in digitization, and India's IT digital sector are playing a key role in the nation's development story and are poised to lead India towards progressive future. So government Digital India initiative have not just become crucial to idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat, either self-reliant India, but also providing strong ground for innovation in form of smart and sustainable solutions, catering from health, business to national security. With this, before I would like to invite my eminent speaker, I would request all speakers to complete their presentation in about 10 minutes. Now I would like to request our first speaker, Mr. Ajay Gupta, who is also requested for his session first, as he has to go for another meeting. I hope the other speakers would be okay with that. So Mr. Ajay Gupta is Head Sales and Strategy, SEC Tech India Private Limited. He has 25 years of extensive industry experience as head of large strategic business unit involving IT, ICT engagement in multiple vendor and multilingual environment. He is also chairperson of Smart City Working Group for the Institute of Engineering and Technology. Prior to SEC Tech, he was partner and head of technology practices KPMG. He was also head of Global Smart City and IoT business in Tech Mahindra. So with this, Ajay, over to you for your keynotes. Thank you.
Thank you, Anuj. Thank you so much, distinguished guests, industry colleagues, and friends. It's great to be here to be part of this conversation. I'm very thankful to FICCI Rajasthan team, especially Rahul, for reaching out and inviting me here to share my thoughts. I always look forward to session organized by FICCI Rajasthan. I have a long associations. I have spoken on this forum before also. I wasn't sure about the format, so Rahul or somebody could help me. I have a few slides, just 3 or 4 of them. If somebody could help me with the slide transition, I have already shared with Rahul.
I'll just share.
Yeah. So while Rahul puts up the presentations, the subject is very close to my heart, right? As Anil mentioned, I led the global smart city and digital enterprise business for Tech Mahindra. I'm very passionate about how technologies can, play a role in improving lives of an ordinary citizen, improving their happiness, and ultimately transform the nation as a whole. Topic for discussion today is strengthening self-reliant India through digitalization. But let me take a few steps back and set some context as to why the topic that we are discussing is so important for all of us in this country. The picture that you are seeing, you might have seen it, some of you might have seen it earlier. This is basically a graph plotted on various revolutions that has happened in our history, human history, from time to time. Agriculture was discovered 100,000 years ago in the form of wild grains, but farmers started plantation, and first agriculture revolution is said to have happened around 10,000 years back. You will notice pottery was invented very early before, the Christ era of 18,000 BC. It got refined later around 6,000 BC, brought a revolution in this field of pottery. Then came a series of inventions, revolutions, discoveries like irrigations, calligraphy or writing, mathematics, peak of Rome, peak of Greece, and blah, blah. Between 1500 to 1900 AD, there were a series of sudden revolutions like, watt engines, steam engine, railways, electricity, telephone, automobile, life-saving drugs like penicillin. So all of these looked very fascinating and interesting. But the fact of the matter is, our country missed all of these critical revolutions. And the reason was very simple. We were colonized for such a long durations. It was, British, Mughal came, then British came, and they never thought of development of India, our country. But the good news is, India is leading the digital revolutions, and you would be surprised to know we are ahead of country like the US or Europe as far as digital revolution is concerned. Rahul, can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So I think it's still getting loaded. Or
This is the third slide.
yeah. So I know I maybe it may be my machine. I still see the heading of the previous slide. Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. It refreshed. So basically, just to reiterate, how India is leading digital revolution. Let facts speak for themselves. So if I were to ask you a few quick questions. Number one, which country has the largest digital payments ecosystems? And you would be surprised to know answer is India. With over 25 billion transactions in the year 2020 itself, India is way ahead in digital payments than an equally populous country like China, or a country with advanced technologies and smartphone penetrations like the US. Number two, which country has the world's largest digital-based unique identity architecture? Well, the answer is again India, our own country. With over 1.29 billion digital identity Aadhaar cards issued, India has by far the largest and best unique identity architecture in the world, which is based on biometrics. Can you imagine a country using 12-digit unique ID, which we call Aadhaar, to find a missing children on daily basis and unite them with their family? Amazing, isn't it? I mean, this is a unique case study. So it is not about, implementing something like Aadhaar card, but how well you can put to use. Number three, which country has the world's largest and most comprehensive direct benefit transfer ecosystem? Yes, the answer again is India. With over 320 schemes and a cumulative transfer of more than 230 billion USD in the last 7 years, India has developed the world's best leakage-proof direct benefit transfer model. And friends, it doesn't stop here. with just $1 or maybe $1.5, which is close to 100 rupees for a month, India offers the cheapest internet data, mobile data in our country. Our 4G coverage is almost 100%. Powered by JAM, which is called Jan Aadhaar Mobile, GEM Trinity of Jan Dhan bank account, Aadhaar and mobile internet. The direct benefit transfer model has almost brought a revolution in Indians' governance delivery. ENAM, India's National Agriculture Market, or ENAM, connects over 17 million of Indian farmers to common national digital marketplace where they are able to trade in their agriculture products. GEM, or Government E-Marketplace, this is the world's largest and transparent digital marketplace for regular government purchases. This platform now enables over 2 million of Indian entrepreneurs to directly sell their products in a very easily accessible, transparent, without any hassles of red tape or extraneous considerations. India has world's largest and most complete participative governance model, which I'm sure you would be aware, which is called MyGov. India's participative governance platform has now over 18 million active users regularly participating in framing some of the very important policies, whether it is educations. We came up recently with the new education policies, smart city, or even the annual financial budget of our country. India has the world's largest mobile manufacturing unit. The Samsung unit in India, the place where I live, with a capacity of 120 million units a year, is the world's largest mobile manufacturing unit. Can you imagine? If I have to ask you which country developed successfully world's largest COVID-19 contact tracing mobile app, yes, the answer is India. The Aragya Setu app that all of us have been using, with over 190 million registered users, became the world's most used mobile app in identifying, monitoring, and mitigating the spread of COVID-19 pandemic. Which country is using the world's largest technology platform for COVID-19 vaccination drive? Again, the answer is India. The COVID platform that India is using to power its vaccination drive against the pandemic has seamlessly allowed over 160 crore vaccines doses, which were administered in just the 10 to 12 months. This is the largest in the world outside China and at the fastest pace in the world. Now, it has reached to a stage of maturity that over 20 countries are now looking to emulate this platform that gives a real-time updates in a very transparent manner with the help of the dashboard that it creates. But what is perhaps the most defining contribution of Digital India is the way it has changed the mindset and cultural consciousness of the country. India is now, and I'm very proud to say that we are now innovation hotbed, also startup hotbed, startup hub. Now Indians can claim to create products and services that are original, replicable, world-class, and breakthrough technologies. Now, for long, we have been aimed to be doing a very low-key IT jobs. People blamed that, okay, the Indians, IT engineers only knew Y2K or Euro renovations like a project. But now India has emerged as a leader in the high technology domain, despite India's many perceived shortcomings and the historical baggage of being a developing nation. This has been possible because of our Digital India initiatives. Now, what is the Digital India initiatives. Very quickly, maybe a minute I'll spend. So you see IT plus IT equal to IT, right? So this was introduced by our PM, and this basically means that information technologies plus Indian talent equals India tomorrow. This is for the country to adapt to new technologies and stay ahead of others. So what we are essentially saying is, how can we leverage technologies as enabler for these transformations? So India initiatives in umbrella program, which covers and spread across many departments. It weaves together a large number of ideas and thoughts into a single comprehensive vision so that each of them is seen as a part of a larger goal. This was started by DAITY, which was a department. Now we have a full-fledged ministry called MAITY. The entire program has been divided into 3 areas, as you can see in the slide. Digital infrastructure as a utility to every citizens, on-demand governance and services, digital empowerment of citizens. And I, wanted to just conclude with 2 very interesting picture. Can we go to the next slide, Rahul? Yeah. So now these pictures are the true testament of our achievements in the digital space. You will see a beggar with a POS machines, and he's basically saying that he can accept the digital payment. And in another picture, you have a fortune teller with a QR code. So basically, they are saying that the digital revolution has gone to this extent in India. Thank you so much. I'm done with my presentations. If there are any questions, I'm available here for some time. Yeah. Back to you, Anuj.
Thank you, Mr. Ajay Gupta.
I think I've been able to stick to the 10 minutes of timeline. Yeah, Anuj. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, Ajay. And Ajay, I think the presentation was very simple and very interesting, and I think it touched the critical points when we look at from a digitization as well as use of digitization as well from a common man perspective. I think you brought a real analogy in terms of how the inflection points in the human history and India lost a chance in the colonization, but how it has really picked up as a market leader today in terms of the digitizations. And especially, I completely agree in terms of our online payment model today. Even from a lowest spectrum of the society to the high net worth individuals and the affluent people, everybody is part of that digital journey. And India has really taken that leapfrog during the COVID, especially with the Arogya Setu app. And a lot of countries now been asking India to, be able to use the Arogya Setu app for their contact tracing app and vaccination. So clearly, I think, India is leading to, and I think you really set the context well with this. And thank you for your time and the notes. And I will now request our second speaker, Mr. Mohit Grover, Director, Industry 4.2, Nagarro Software. Personally, Nagarro, I really track and follow a lot of things which Mohit, your company, does from a sustainability and other things. And being Nagarro part of the Mahindra World City and a nice, beautiful campus, I see a lot of that movement and action which you really talk about. So with this, Mohit Grover has a deep experience in consulting, product management and strategy, in working with organizations across the globe. He has delivered many large-scale, multi-million-dollar products and transformations. He is responsible for creating Industry 4.0, thought leadership, fostering partnership, and consulting manufacturing companies to enable digital transformation and create a roadmap for connected enterprises. He loves to teach and coach in subjects of product management and agile product owner concepts. He is a Six Sigma certified and has multiple certifications in product management and UX. Over to you, Mohit, for your thoughts and experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Anuj. I'm going to share my presentation. Just let me know when you're able to see it. Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can. We can.
Okay. Are you able to see the screen that I was sharing?
Not
Yes,
yet.
it's able to see, but it has stopped now.
Okay. Just a minute. Let me do that again. There's some issue, Anuj. When I share my screen, you're not able to hear me. Maybe let me forward this presentation to Rahul and he can share. In the meantime, can somebody else go? Would that be okay?
Yeah, I will share your presentation. Please send me.
Yeah, sure, Rahul. Let me just mail it to you.
Rahul, just let us know once you receive the presentation from Mr.
Yeah.
Grover.
Yes.
Anuj, otherwise we can take the next speaker and if that
Sure.
suits.
Mohit, will that be okay with you? We can come back to you.
Yes, Anuj, that is perfectly okay. Please go ahead. And sorry for this trouble.
No, that's perfectly fine. Since we're just kind of managing that situation on the presentation. Meanwhile, I will request our next eminent speaker, Mr. Samir Mahapatra. So Samir is country manager for India and SAARC for Aries Communication. He's an experienced leader with demonstrated history of working in telecommunication industry for last 21 years. He has been part of the industry leading corporates like Standard Chartered, BSNL, Reliance Communication, and Vodafone. Over the last 2 decades in telecom industry, Mr. Mahapatra has been instrumental in significant contribution in building infrastructure strategies and driving multiple business for leading telecom in India. He has been part of the key industry milestones, both in consumer mobility and enterprise business. Over to you, Samir.
Thank you. Am I audible, Anuj?
Yes, we can hear you well and see you as well.
Okay. Thank you, Anuj, for this introduction and very good morning to fellow colleagues and all the speakers. I would like to thank FICCI and members of the Digital Rajasthan Conclave for inviting me to this session. The beauty about such sessions is, I'm sure, hopefully I would be able to leave some of my own thoughts and insights. But the larger beneficiary in this entire discussion would only be me, who would be taking away such precious insights from such eminent speakers on the panel. I think Ajay brought about a very beautiful sense of how digitalization across the globe has come about in hundreds and thousands of years, and how now India is at the cusp of becoming a leader over there. I would start with a quick introduction. While Anuj has spoken about, where do I come from? My name is Samir Mahapatra. At the cost of being repetitive, in my current capacity, I serve as the country manager for Aries Communication for India and some adjoining countries. Career telecom professional, have seen the journey of digitalization quite on the ground, from putting in fiber for the first time when the country was adopting telecommunication, to seeing OTT barging into our homes through our phones and all digital handsets and medias across living rooms and bedroom. I think that's an illustrious journey that I have been lucky to have been part of. In our current organization, which is Aries. This is a 2-decade old IoT organization headquartered out of California with presence in multiple countries, including India. Our entire work over here has been focused on making life simpler using technology. Now, we are the leading IoT player for most of the electric vehicle companies in India and have vertical solutions for banks, financiers, fleet, and last mile delivery companies who run their businesses using our IoT solutions. My thoughts on digitization, and unlike Mohit and Ajay, not carrying a presentation, I am the presenter and would like to chat away my experiences and thoughts. Uh, 17th May 2020, during lockdown 4.0, that's the right context, Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi said, and I quote, we have been hearing for many years that the 21st century will be India's century. And this crisis is, I believe, one that carries a message that we have to move forward, not just to combat that crisis, but to prevail. The Prime Minister said that this can happen only when we are self-reliant. Such a powerful message in the journey of what had started. I personally believe 2 decades back, and kind of this resonates with what Ajay was touching at some point of time during his speech. 2 decades back, a lot of intellectual thought process in India would benchmark Indian technology growth on the consumption side with developed nations. We would always strive to be there sometime in the future. We have always looked at India as a great technology consumer stroke developer, but in the future. I can now very confidently say that now times have rapidly changed and India consumes technology like no other. India develops better than most. A lot of us in the industry and industry bodies that I'm part of are striving to see how a large part of what we consume can be brought home for development and production. We, as the consumer, is one of the largest pockets of consumption across the globe. And while we are developing, for the world, I think it is time that the development and production was brought home. Digitalization would be a key for this entire effort. We have to play to our strength and prioritize sectors. Multiple initiatives by MeitY over the last year, Government of India, Niti Aayog, everything has been pivoting around the digitalization effort. Digitalization sits at the core of this ambition to make India a development production hub, ambition to make India self-reliant. I would like to share some thoughts about what digitalization means for industry as I see it from within the industry and as a marketer and as a business leader working across different spectrum of the industry. Industry 4.0 and its constituent digital technologies will play a key role here. Through digitalization, Indian manufacturing enterprises, especially SMEs, can enhance efficiency, reduce cost of production, minimize manufacturing defects, and shorten production time. But the industrialization world is facing urgent challenges where rapidly changing technology and models need to be adopted to ensure speed, flexibility, quality, and efficiency of production or assembly, as well as enabling new business models. Most importantly, the world's resources are finite and getting scarcer. In other words, we need to become more efficient and flexible so that we can drive sustainable innovation for a world we want to live in today and tomorrow. What is really going to help all these challenges is digitalization and a complete and holistic digitalization flow across different aspects. Key part of this approach, as I always see, is the use of digital twin, which merges all the data from entire life cycle in products and production, from the initial concept to the finished products and the production to performance. Cutting edge technologies make it possible to understand this data and use it intensively. This level of digitization can also help enterprises get to scale, to fight scale, mass customization in a very short cycle time from optimized production line. This allows smaller companies or smaller economies to fight against the scale that would come from larger competitors from across the globe. Digital transformation also is an ocean for a lot of medium and even large companies today, which believe that it is an unknown giant. But the fact is that digital transformation is one of the key challenges facing contemporary businesses, and adoption today is not optional. The need to leverage digital technology to develop and implement new business model forces firms to reevaluate existing capabilities, structures, and cultures. More often than not, these profound changes require firms to revisit the old truths of beneficial innovation and harmful disruption. It is imperative that industry and firms take nimble but concrete steps towards digitalization for growth and survival. And I put a lot of emphasis on survival because, as I said earlier, digitalization adoption is not optional.
Capabilities,
This would
structures, and cultures. More often than
Yeah, Samir.
I think somebody came on speaker. Just continue, please.
Okay. So I was saying that it is imperative that industry and firms take nimble but concrete steps towards digitalization for growth and survival. Digitalization is the core to survival, and I'm not even talking about incremental benefits or accelerated growth. Anything which is not going digital, digitalization, digital adoption, lack of digital adoption can would eventually lead to extinction. It confirms to society, it confirms to the way we consume today, and of course it conforms to our essence of industry and firm. At the end of my session today, I would like to suggest a simple 5-step change process to initiate digitalization within firms. This is my 5-step process, which I've always been talking to firms that we've been suggesting digitalization, even IoT adoption, either through our organizations or our mentor programs. The first is start small and build on first-hand benefits. It is easy to cut, copy, paste different industry practices on digitalization and put it on your organization blueprint. Everybody is playing a different game at the same time. The game that my firm is playing, the learning curve that we are sitting at, the business evolution that I have would be very, very independent of what somebody else will be sitting at. So start small and build on first-hand benefits of the benefits that you see in your firm. Second, implement in part, give it time. Digitalization, like IoT adoption, like AI adoption, is a complicated long-run benefit to effort assessment. So do it in small parts in your organization and give it time to show its result. Third, engage in standardization of efforts. Do not operate in isolation. Look at what interoperability is available outside, and hence always work on digitalization with a standardization effort at the core of it. Fourth, take responsibility for data ownership and ethics. Building blocks of with data ownerships and ethics is going to take your organizations and digitalization effort a very, very long way. Fifth and the last one, probably the most important one, own the change and ensure organization-wide commitment. None of these efforts are going to become a success unless organizational commitment at the last man standing on the ground is there and ownership is there. These are my thoughts, and I hope some of these down the line would become pillars of source of some inspiration for organizations and firms trying to go digital in their own way, eventually making themselves and India self-reliant. Thank you so much. Back to you, Anuj.
Thank you, Samir. That was very interesting to know, in terms of how you decoded from a digitization perspective, how the whole transformation is really important. And I think that 5-step process was extremely interesting and important, starting from the whole implementation to the ownership process, and how this can just be adopted by almost everyone in the society, as well by multiple industries. Important is continuous upgradation, as well as in terms of ensuring the usability and functionality. So thank you for your thoughts and experience. I would now request Mohit Grover, Director Industry 4.0 Nagaru, to share his thoughts and experience. Over to you, Mohit.
Thank you, Anuj, and sorry for that, confusion earlier. But always good to be part of this forum. So, on today's topic, industries continues to be part of, a key backbone of self-reliant India, and In that respect, Industry 4.0 is really, has changed the complete paradigm and brought in a lot of transformations, right? So I think it was 5 years back on this forum when I first spoke on Industry 4.0. And since then, the adoption of Industry 4.0, especially in India, is massive, right? Like Mr. The earlier couple of speakers said, it is this adoption of Industry 4.0 has really, brought India back onto the map in different map of the world in different forums, right? Now, I think the time is right for us to also look at particular aspects of Industry 4.0 and see how we can derive more value in the sense of quality and sustainability. So in that sense, I'm going to touch upon, the aspect of quality 4.0 in the context of Industry 4.0. So now, we are able to produce more. It is imperative to complement producing more with producing better. You're selling more, you better complement it with selling better. You are deploying more solutions, more giving more products to your customers, whether these are B2B or B2C. It is important and imperative that you complement those with the best in class services to your customers. And all this and more is being enabled through Quality 4.0 today. Rahul, if you can move to the next slide, please. Yes. So, the speaker before me were talking about Industry 4.0 and laying this whole paradigm. Let me put it in a more simpler way for all of us to, look at it and how we can make use of it more effectively. So the definition of Industry 4.0 has really changed over the last few years, as more and more industries are trying to adopt it. We see it as a mesh of different departments and entities within your company. So it is no more about how you produce and what you're producing and where you're producing. It's also no more just about the way you are giving your services to a customer. It's a combination of all the divisions coming together to create what we call a connected enterprise. And what is enabling this connected enterprise is basically a digital thread that is being driven by data, right? So you start by collecting data, right? And then you start by generating insights on top of it. Once you have sufficient insights, you start predicting, right? What is going to be better for me, what is going to be better for my workers, for my products, for my customers. And once you have done that sufficiently with a lot of confidence, then you will start to bring in a lot more parameters, right? From different departments, from environmental factor, various ambience factor, and you start bringing the element of human intelligence to it, right? And at the end, what we are aiming for is the autonomy, right? We want to reach a stage of autonomy where our machines and our systems are no longer able to detect what is going wrong, but actually also automatically correct that wrong, right? So this is how we can look at Industry 4.0 from connected enterprise perspective and sort of look to implement it. Rahul, if you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So along with the data that I talked about, uh, the four pillars of Quality 4.0 are assets, process, and people, right? So when I talk about assets, it's about the connectedness of all the machines. When I talk about process, it's about the standardization and visualizations of processes in real time. When I talk about people, it's about augmenting the people with the decision making ability to help them make intelligent decisions, and also to help them with in various health and safety aspects, which has become very important in COVID times. And ultimately, the fourth pillar that is enabling all this is data, which is about automated control loops, not just helping us taking intelligent decisions, but actually bringing all those insights to take some of the autonomous decisions. And what are the motivations? Why quality 4.0, right? Just adding on to industry 4.0, right? There is an increased customer satisfaction, right? You can using these technologies, you can produce products which are reusable, which are more sustainable, which are bringing in better sales, better customer satisfaction. You can design your work environments in a way that is promoting, employee motivation, that is taking care of the health, right? And not just that, it is also helping your businesses in terms of reducing the defects and reducing the errors, and thus bringing in a step function change in your OEEs, and of course better products and a faster time to market. Next slide please, Rahul. Okay. And what does it really mean in terms of use cases on the ground, right? So there's an industry 4.0 concept. There is quality 4.0, leveraging the same technologies and the industry 4.0 bed. But then what it really means in my real life work, what it really means is across the value chain, there are various ways in which we can make use of these technologies, right? So if you're talking about product design, my earlier, the panelist was talking about digital twin, right? Digital twin is really being used by product design consultants in variety of ways. It allows them to conduct thousands and thousands of iterations virtually, which earlier would have meant, creating a prototype, taking it to your shop floor, and then trying to see whether this is working or not. Today, everything is being done virtually. You can bring in a lot of parameters and see whether my product is going to fit or not. And what it means is you're creating better products. You're creating products which are more reusable. You're creating products which conforms to what your customer needs. You're creating products which are more sustainable, right? You are able to use those materials which are able to which make your product a lot of very environment friendly, and so on. When it comes to assembly and manufacturing, all the automated SPC systems which can give you real-time information, they connect easily with your back-end enterprise system. All this is bringing in a step function increase in your efficiency and productivity. Moving on to inspection and repair, right? I think it's not just about making good and then able to sell it. It's about supporting your customers, creating that trust, right? And you can do that by creating services, enabling services where you're able to understand the fault before it comes, right? So you can keep your customers updated, and you are able to help them even without them asking for help, and servicing them very proactively instead of doing it post something has happened. And there are technologies such as reality technologies which are enabling all this beautifully, right? And at the end of the day, making ensuring your safety, ensuring that your products are compliant with not just the standards that we set ourselves for today, but also the world standards is is something that is part and parcel of quality 4.0. Yes, and I thought I'll probably bring in some of the cases that we are already doing with our customers. So this is a leading telecom company which is making use of mixed reality solution for their workers who go on the top of these towers and repair them. And it's just one example where this company has made more than 50% improvement in the defect rates. But there are similar examples in repair and maintenance where a lot of companies are making use of these technologies. Next slide, please, Rahul. Yes. Now, this particular example comes from a leading automotive car maker, one of our very big customers, and they are using AI vision technologies. Now, this particular customer is using the vision technologies to find out the dents and scratches in the car, in the used car. And then, there is a report that is generated automatically. So basically, they have brought the number of, so earlier, if done manually, the inspection would take probably 4 to 5 hours for one car, and today it is reduced to 1 hour per car. But just not this example, AI vision is actually being used in a lot of industries. Some of the interesting cases are, the agriculture industry is using them in identifying the health of their poultry, and different animals and so on. Last but not the least, there's a bottling company which specifically is using automated SPC and has been able to reduce the waste by more than $1 million since its inception, and have been able to create products which are better in quality. But in general, also these automated SPC systems which are bringing in these real-time events and alerts have really reduced the wastage in any manufacturing process, right? So in that sense, before I take a pause, I think it's time that industries bring into focus the quality aspects along with the productivity. Thank you, Anuj.
Thank you, Mr. Grover. I think you touched upon a very important topic of Industry 4.0, and I think that has brought a lot of evolution and revolution in terms of the way the manufacturing sector has started to look at, as well as it is importantly also affecting the service and the other sectors as well. I think clearly Industry 4.0 plays a very important role in terms of self-reliant India, as well as making India as a manufacturing hub in terms of propagating that make in India, as the government of India has been promoting. Clearly, of course, you talked about those 4 pillars in Industry 4.0, which will really lead to future of quality and the use case across the value chain. So I think they are very important and pertinent. Technology and digitization, of course, is important role to play, but how effectively that can connect to the industry is something which is very important, and that's what you really touched upon. So thank you for taking up that important point and subject. So with this, I would now request our next eminent speaker, Mr. Hassan Yaqub. He is Associate Director and Group for Group Flipkart. He has 20 years of professional experience working with Vodafone, Reliance Industries, Reliance Communication, and Ministry of HRD. He has been recognized for his dedicated contribution for upliftment of society through his corporate excellence. He is Chairman, E-Commerce Council of UP and instrumental in corporate investments, employment creation, and society upliftment through CSR assignment for State of Rajasthan at Group Flipkart. Over to you, Hassan, for your keynotes and experiences. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anuj, for kind introduction. And let me start congratulating FICCI and really appreciating the efforts of FICCI and for conducting this sort of great conclave, and which is based on the digitalization of the state and India also, which is the need of the I think you can in the entire world. India is growing with a great pace regarding the digitalization of the country. So just wanted to make this conclave very fruitful, and the result should become instantly for the people who are watching this conclave, and my all regards to all the panelists here, first of all, and all the dignitaries and all the people who are part of this conclave. So, as you know, e-commerce, I am leading as a chairman for the e-commerce council also for Uttar Pradesh, and while I take care of Rajasthan and Uttarakhand and other states also for the North region. So we have already witnessed how e-commerce has played a critical role during the COVID pandemic also, and how come people have started recognizing e-commerce as a supply chain and helping hand from the government side and for the society also. So e-commerce, I think, is a revolution in the digitalization, and e-commerce is playing a great role, and by so many ways. And you can say, I'm just giving some examples how e-commerce is playing a significant role in the upliftment of entire country through digital medium. You can say, first thing, we are also promoting digital currency. So Honorable Prime Minister has already emphasized on digital currency promotion, and e-commerce is a medium through which everybody is coming forward with using digital mode for the currency and the transaction. And e-commerce has played a role especially for the upliftment of the entrepreneurship, startup, women empowerment by providing digital national market reach to entire nation. And I think this line would be very much lucrative for the government also, because what e-commerce is doing right now is through digital means that it is also giving a sense of revenue generation for the government pan India, because whosoever sell any product in India and the GST has been paid, so it's a revenue machine for the government also. And to the entire forum here, let me inform about a few programs of Group Flipkart, how this Group Flipkart has come forward for helping the people of India, and the same as in Rajasthan. So Flipkart has come up with a program by the name of Flipkart Samarth. So Samarth is actually a program just to give a platform to the artisans, weavers, handlooms, and to the women, to the NGOs, and to the self-help groups, through which they can showcase their products on our platform, which will give them a national reach. Initially, everybody remained confused how it will be done, how it can be done, what would be the expenses. So what we did through Samarth project, we started giving free of cost services to the new coming people who are really keen to showcase their product, to sell their product on the national platform. So it's a marketplace. So we are giving free photography, free cataloging, free accountancy, free warehousing support, and a dedicated account manager, so that technology transfer, training, and you can say improvisation, sharing of ideas can happen between these new sellers and the company or representative. And I'm really happy and glad to share with all of you that we have signed MOUs across India, and we are also going to sign MOU with the government of Rajasthan, which will bring prosperity and open the horizon for selling the Rajasthani product across the nation through Flipkart Samarth. So this is one. This is second. We have also come with a project Walmart Vriddhi. So Walmart and Flipkart is a one company now. So we have come up with a project Walmart Vriddhi. I'm sharing this because it could be fruitful for the people who are listening this, how they can come forward for the betterment through our organization, and so as digitalization. So for the Flipkart Vriddhi motto is just to give a training to all the MSMEs across India, and we are also going to sign MOU very shortly with the government of Rajasthan, just to train them how to export their products, how to digitally equipped. We will train them in a proper manner through in phases. We have a training module of 3 phases, and hopefully people we going to export, and people from the Rajasthan who are really doing great sort of manufacturing. And due to COVID and no exhibition is going on, no sort of opportunity is there to sell their product. So we would be working as a hand-holding agency just to help them, these people who are really manufacturing great stuff from the Rajasthan, so that entire India can see and do the shopping of the Rajasthani product by the help of Flipkart. And I have noticed personally that how Flipkart has been instrumental in the digitalization of the entire India. See, earlier what used to happen, any sort of product, any sort of seller is doing retail shopping, yeah, wholesale selling. And if now new generations are coming forward by the using our platform and the e-commerce platform, so that they are coming as an entrepreneur. Their new generation, especially female entrepreneurs, are coming forward using e-commerce platform, and through the digital medium they are going, they are getting success leap and bounds. And recently we have started a project by the name of Flipkart Leap. Under Leap we sponsor, we support, we train the new startups just to come forward. Last year we have selected 8 startups from the entire India. Now this year we have started the invitation from across India, so that we can give and shape up the new startup by support of funding, collaboration, training, etc. And during pandemic, we spoke to government of Rajasthan with so many departments, and government has also supported e-commerce, and they have actually recognized what is the importance of e-commerce in digitalization of Rajasthan. And during pandemic, we have supplied, we have ensured supply chain management of entire Rajasthan, and supplied lakhs of the assignment to the government of Rajasthan and the society and the people of Rajasthan. So this is my submission, and I'm really honored and privileged that you people have invited me on this forum, and I will continue to be associated with FICCI, and I love to join this sort of great panel again. My best wishes to FICCI. All the best. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, Mr. Hassan Yaqub, for your points and in terms of insight. And clearly, e-commerce has played a very important role in India over especially the last few years. Clearly, it has also been instrumental in terms of people buying habits, in terms of from conventional brick and mortar to online. And some of the important things which you talked about in terms of facilitating people who need the most, especially the MSME sectors, the traders, the artisans, women empowerment. They are clearly an example in terms of going to the lowest spectrum of the society. And I've experienced, Hassan, also, one of your warehouse and facility distribution center at Mahindra University, Jaipur, we have. And it is fascinating to see in terms of how the women empowerment and the women are there on the shop floor. So it's not just that what you say, but it is also been implemented on site. And the kind of an automation and all which has gone in terms of managing such facilities is just difficult to explain in terms of what it is really bringing the benefit. So thank you for your keynotes and information. I would have loved to have 1 or 2 minutes closing notes from each of the speakers, but I know Atul and Rahul has been doing a ping to me that we have overshot our time. But clearly, thank you so much. And before I close the session, I would also like to thank all my fellow speakers for their insightful information and talking about how the digitization is really facilitating and enabling us. And I would also like to thank our sponsors, Extensible IT Solutions, Pinnacle Infotech, DCM Shriram, Kajaria, Hindustan Zinc, Startup Oasis, and Shree Cement. And not but the least, thank you for FICCI for organizing this digital conclave on a continuous basis. This really helps in terms of understanding what's happening new and where we really need to work around. So over to you, Atul, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bindal, for keeping things on time and effectively moderating the session. Thank you to all the speakers. And now we move on to the next session, which is a panel discussion on leveraging digital leap for socio-economic transformation. This is curated by Startup Voices, and Dr. Pallavi Tak, Assistant Vice President Programs at CIIECO, would be moderating this session. And Ms. Pallavi is an expert at program design and has led a bouquet of social impact, craft and women startup intervention. She holds a doctoral degree in sustainable habitat and a post-graduation degree in development economics. She has over 15 years of experience in teaching and training and qualitative research and startup incubation. A passionate believer in making social impact through entrepreneurship, she enjoys storytelling and street photography. So welcome, Pallavi, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Atulji, for the kind introduction. And welcome each and everyone to this panel discussion, including the panelists, and I'll introduce each of the panelists one by one. We're taking this opportunity to discuss, maybe take a pause and reflect on what has happened, especially in the last 1.5 years since the pandemic has struck. And literally we are perched on this digital leap, and whatever change has come in the last 1.5 years in terms of the data discipline, the technology infusion, the processes which are now getting streamlined, and the organizational structures that are transforming is commendable. We've come a long way, it seems, though a long way to go still, but just taking this opportunity to reflect with our fellow panelists on what has happened so far, how things are changing on the ground, especially in terms of socio-economic and environmental transformation, and how as startups and incubator facilitators, we are playing an instrumental role there. So I would ask you to welcome Mr. Chintan Bakshi, the first panelist. Mr. Chintan Bakshi is partner at CIIE, Center for Innovation, Incubation and Entrepreneurship, which is a leading incubator of the country. He heads startup incubation piece at CIIE and has supported hundreds of startups across the country and also in Rajasthan. With a vision to create tomorrow's startup capitals, he has especially worked in tier 2, tier 3 cities with entrepreneurs in building the ecosystem and catalyzing the ecosystems here. I've had the privilege of working with him for the last 5 years. We'll talk more about our work, and through our work, what we have learned. An alumnus of IIT Delhi and IIM Bangalore, he has experience of over 25 years with renowned names like Maruti Suzuki, and has had his own ventures as well. Welcome to the panel, Chintan.
Thank you,
Next, we have Ms. Bhagyashree. Ms. Bhagyashree is founder at The Disposal Company. It is an automated offsets platform with a vision to simplify climate action for businesses and individuals. So if you are an individual or a brand who really is conscious about the kind of environmental footprint you're creating, you want to figure that out, and you want to neutralize this, she is the person to go to. She had started a career with Government of NCT Delhi as a member of Chief Minister's Advisory Committee on Public Grievances, and today she represents The Disposal Company on the panel. I welcome you, Bhagyashree, on the panel.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Ankita Garg. Ankita is founder at Pressify. Pressify is an agri-tech venture that provides sustainable and profitable crop production farm advisory using data captured through IoT. So what they do is they install sensors which would on the farms and in rural areas, which would capture data. And via this data, there is going to be an analytics and inference, which will help these farmers to take more educated and informed decisions on what crops to go ahead with. A graduate from IIM Ahmedabad, she has masters in biotech from Penn State and an experience of over 10 years. I welcome you, Ankita, to the panel.
Thank you, Pallavi.
Next, we have Mr. Sujit Singh. He has co-founded Shared Bro, a talent mobility platform, democratizing the IT industry by empowering SMBs to work with large enterprises. So if you are an SMB who wants to really grow beyond the limits and framework that you've always thought about, and you really want to work with larger organizations, Sujit is going to help you get through these meetings set up with larger organizations like Walmart, etc. He started his career as a product development engineer in a national award-winning medtech startup, and today here he represents SharedPro. We welcome you, Sujit, to the panel.
Thank you, Pallavi, for having me.
Next, we have Mr. Vikas Mundra. Last but not the least, he's founder at Magenta Connect, which helps non-tech small and medium enterprises to utilize tech and make better decisions through automation and ready analytics. So again, if you are a small or medium enterprise, if you have your ERP system and you just want to plug and play to get the data analytics and business intelligence in place, Vikas is your go-to person. And this he does even when the team may not be very pro with tech understanding. A CA by qualification and with an experience of over 17 years, he was one of the major contributors towards the growth of iBall. We welcome you, Vikas, to the panel.
Thank you so much, Pallavi.
So with this great panel, I hope we have this discussion, which is going to be very intriguing, very interesting, around the theme that how this digital leap that we are perched on today, and especially in light of the last 1.5 years, the changes that we've seen, how is this bringing about transformation, which is socio-economic and environmental transformation on the ground? My first question, and I would seek opening comments from you, Chintan. So you have worked with a lot of startups, hundreds of startups, in fact, and especially a lot in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And there is a lot of distance travel, Chintan, especially in the last 2 years that we've seen, besides what was happening organically before that. Now, I ask you this, how do you perceive this digital leap as per your experience, especially coming from the last 2 years? And how is it changing the landscape for startups, especially in tier 2 and tier 3 cities?
Thanks, Pallavi. So yeah, I think last 2 years, while they may have been challenging in the short term for startups, but I think at a medium term to long term level in terms of the direction, I think there has been a significant movement and growth of ecosystems in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. Even the data sort of very initial trends tends to sort of support that. I was looking at data from Traction. Over the last 3 years, the percentage of startups which have got funded from the tier 2, tier 3 cities has been steadily increasing. It's still very small, but it's been steadily increasing. It's probably the start of a curve that we are seeing. And there are, I think, 3-4 trends which I think are positive in terms of enabling more and more startups from the smaller cities to grow, get funded, scale up. And these are kind of immediate things which come to mind. So one, of course, is the fact that because of the pandemic and because of adoption of digital technologies, the playing field has leveled. Right? That's very obvious for people to see. When we started our operations in Rajasthan in 2013, and we kind of had our first batch of startups graduating, and we started contacting investors that why don't you come to Jaipur for a pitching and for a demo day, etc. I mean, one of the key concerns of investors used to be that Jaipur is not on our flight path, right? So they would have their startups concentrated in Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, maybe Pune, Chennai to some extent. So flight, unka jo itinerary hai, wo usi tarah se defined hota tha. So, why would they sort of go out of that path and come to Jaipur to look at one, whatever, incubator maybe, and they're not even sure what the quality of the startups is. And, that to a certain extent continued. Of course, it improved significantly. And by 2018-19, there were fairly large events happening in a city like Jaipur, Ahmedabad, etc. But now all these investor pitching events are happening online, right? No one even knows where the investor is sitting, where the startup is sitting. The startup could be in Dibrugarh in Assam. Investor could be anywhere. So to that extent, I think
not only for the short term. I think this is the investor connect change has happened for the long term. I don't think in the future startup pitches are going to happen physically. There may be some startup events and all that which will happen in person, but investor connects are going to happen virtually, even in the long term. So technically, you could be pitching to an investor in Dubai or Singapore or wherever. I mean, I'm talking in terms of time zones and all that. So that's one change, and therefore the playing field has leveled. It doesn't really matter where you are sitting. We have also seen, and I'll quickly look at the top 2 or 3 trends. I'm mindful of the time. We have also seen a large number of incubators being set up in the last 2 to 3 years, and that's been a push from the side of the government. And most of these incubators in the last 2 to 4 years have been set up in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. So therefore, there is some sort of an enabling ecosystem which has started coming up in these in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. Most incubators, when they start as physical sort of facilities, and slowly they are able to raise funds. They are able to increase the bouquet of services, and my sense is that in 3 to 4 years time they become important elements of the startup ecosystem. They start providing services like investor connects, funding, seed funding, prototype funding, EIR programs, etc. And that's why I kind of mentioned the time frame. So last 3 to 4 years, this trend has started, and in the tier 2 cities now we are seeing incubators which now have programs where they can provide significant value to startups, including funding, including prototype grants, which are very important elements, because commercial funding comes much later. I mean, that's I think one of the misconceptions, that a startup can actually do a lot of validation through angel networks, through angel funding, through VC funding. That's not true. I mean, VCs will come in only once your model is very well proven, it is scalable, a lot of the risk has been taken out of it, and all that risk funding essentially is done by incubators. So that ecosystem has kind of come there. I think the third factor, and I'll quickly kind of, I mean, there are multiple factors, but I'll just look at the top 3, is the fact that there has also been saturation of business models which have got funded. Most of the business models that have got funded in the first phase, let's say, which started 2014, 15 and went up till 18, 19, 20 or so, were almost very urban centric, kind of adapted models which had been working well in the US or other developed economies, and some adaptation, etc., has happened here. And it's evident from the panel. Most of the panelists are entrepreneurs who are working at solving problems which exist at the grassroots. So the next wave of entrepreneurship is really going to focus on solving problems for Bharat, as they say. Right? These are real life problems that are being faced by whether it's SMEs, businesses, artisans, individuals, students, housewives, whatever it is, who are in Bharat, which has a very unique economy, very unique socio-economic sort of a sense. And you have to build this startup ground up. I mean, you can't build it sitting out of Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore. You have to build it in Jaipur or Ahmedabad or Assam or whatever, or Guwahati. A classic case is one startup which became a unicorn, I think maybe last 2 months, DealShare. So DealShare was looking at helping housewives in tier 2, tier 3 cities to aggregate their purchase to get discounts. So they consciously built it up in Jaipur. Now they, of course, moved to other cities, and perhaps I think their tech team, etc., sits in Bangalore, I think, but it was built ground up from Jaipur, and there's no way they could have built it in a Bangalore or a Delhi. So yeah, I think these are 3 important trends, and over the next 3 to 5 years, it's not visible immediately, but over the next 3 to 5 years, my sense is that the percentage of startups which get funded from tier 2, tier 3 cities is going to increase to at least 15 to 20%. Right now, it's maybe less than 10%, but it's going to become 3 times over the next 3 to 5 years. Yeah, I think I'll maybe pause.
Interesting. So yeah, world has become a smaller place. There is more room for entrepreneurs and stakeholders coming from smaller cities, and there's more novelty in the ideas and business models because these are the first generation entrepreneurs and coming from the place where the problems exist. Thanks, Chintan, for those comments. I come to you, Vikas. You work with small and medium enterprises, a segment that has undergone literally a sea change in the last 2 years. That's what we see. All in terms of data discipline that they now understand, the processes and operations that they now want to streamline, focus on, and things have changed offline, online, all of that. The tech adoption, on the market side, on the customer engagement side, supply chain side, all of that. Talk about your experience on this change for SMEs and how is it that Magenta as a startup is bringing about and assisting in all this change and transformation?
So let me first put some numbers so that we understand from this perspective. So there are more than 60 million SMEs in India. Out of this, there are more than 12 million SMEs who are registered in the GST. And out of that, around 3 million SMEs are using a proper financial product or a CRM product. So we can see the kind of scope still India has in spite of all this digitization. So my point is, even this 3 million SMEs who are using a financial product or a CRM product, still they are struggling with a lot of manual processes. And there's a lot of scope in this SMEs also. Now coming to the particularly our experience in the transformation of the SMEs. So one of the key advantages which we got is pan-India, we were able to set our network. Like recently, our last few customers are from Odisha, Assam or Kerala without the visit. So if you look at any of the business models in the India, वहाँ जाए बिना काम नहीं होता है, साथ में चाय पियो तो business आता है. So that has changed, as Chintan also pointed out. So everyone is now very comfortable coming on the Zoom and or Google Meet and then have a virtual VC and they get the product installed also. So this is a lot of advantages. So it becomes a win-win situation for everyone. So that is one aspect of it. Now, if you look from the pain point of the SMEs, there are 3-4 major pain points. And any SMEs, if we talk about, they want to increase the inventory turnaround time, collect the payment faster, identify the gaps and the leakages in their businesses. So what has changed now is there's a regulatory change post GST and the digital payments. There's a shift in the behavior also due to the impact of the COVID, new generation coming into, that's another advantage. Then there is a change in the adoption of SaaS products, change in the adoption of the cloud-based product. So this changes has created an impact whereby the SMEs are now open to look at the solutions. So that has been our experience.
Great. Interesting. You brought about regulatory changes that have sort of made it almost inevitable for the digital wave to sort of set in, and also behavioral change for whatever reasons. Thanks for bringing light to that, Vikas. Moving to you, Ankita. They say there is fortune at the bottom of the pyramid, and you work in the rural parts of the country, literally Bharat as we call it, and with the farmers. Sitting from there, what does this digital transformation look like, Ankita? And how is the farmer perceiving it, participating in it, and expecting from it, sitting right in the rural heart of the country? And tell this all from Precify's lens.
Sure. Thank you, Pallavi, for this question. So, yeah, I mean, truly, the farmers of India are the heart of India, so to say. Almost 50% population of India is situated in rural areas. They are dependent on agriculture or agriculture-allied activities. Still, only about 15, 16, 17% of the GDP currently comes from agriculture. And there is a lot of improvement that can be done in terms of the productivity, in terms of the profitability and the incomes of farmers. And this is also doubling farmers' income is one of the agenda that the Honorable Prime Minister had, right? So coming to Pressify, we work upon giving the right kind of advisory to farmers using data. And this data is something that we get from sensors that we install on their farm. So what the digital transformation in itself has done is that it has brought in agency for farmers. It has reduced the asymmetry in terms of information, availability of inputs, and the possibilities of selling their output in the market. It has created a lot of choices for them, because now they can go to a digital platform and look at the various options that are available to them instead of going in and working with the nearest available option or the first available option. So this is definitely something which has come in, especially more so, it has become more intense in the last 2 years after the pandemic. So there was already a penetration of about 30 to 40% of smartphones in India. And since the pandemic hit a lot more, especially the second wave of pandemic hit rural India a lot more, there was a lot more usage of now these smartphones. So yeah, there are all these options which are now available to the farmers. Though how the farmers are currently perceiving it, I would say they are in a stage of testing what is available out to them, because there is also a slew of all these different digital platforms and services that are coming to them, and they are trialing it out. They are trying to evaluate whether their practices that they were doing earlier, the solutions that were available to them earlier, the ones whom they trusted upon for generations and for years together, the nearest dealer whom they were buying from, or the trader whom they were selling their produce to, or the advice that they were taking from an advisor or an agri-input dealer. Is that the best solution to them? Or can they trust on all these platforms, the digital platforms that are coming in? And thus, I believe that as a startup, Pressify, or any other startup, one of the important responsibilities that we have, even the government platforms and any other platforms that are there right now, is to create a positive experience and the trust. And this is what I believe the farmers are expecting, to have a level of trust on the digital platforms that exist out there, that they are able to provide them the services in a manner which are very usable, which are reliable to them, and also there is a level of follow-up which is there with the help of all these platforms. And this is, I would say, the way the digital platforms or the digital transformation is coming up in terms of the farmers as the strat. Thank you.
Great. That was very nice to hear from the farmer's perspective. And it's great that the agency, the transparency and awareness and accessibility, I pick up these terms from your words. And this is bringing in and more trust building, and opportunity to build that trust is right there. That's very optimistic. Moving to you, Bhagyashree. Bhagyashree, 2020, 2030 is the decisive decade for climate change action. We all know that. We are looking at 7.6% emission reduction every year, which is uphill of a task, but I don't think there is any other way out for us. How are you using digital power to make this happen? And what has worked in favor of the disposal company?
Yeah, you're very rightly saying that we are fast approaching a climate deadline, and this particular decade that we are in currently is going to be very crucial, and to see how it pans out for us as humanity. So today, our work is focused around transforming businesses, and as businesses are leveraging digital transformation, so we are working towards integrating sustainability, one into this digital transformation, secondly into their supply chains. So the why has changed for us. So, for example, for before COVID, we were using these sustainability initiatives as a competitive advantage for businesses. But today, it has become a matter of sheer survival for businesses. So now what digital transformation has helped us do is, like how very rightly Chintan sir pointed out, has become a level playing field. But so when it becomes a level playing field and you're approaching investors from around the world, so for businesses of all scale, right from startups and to even bigger companies, it becomes crucial that they deliver on the global standards of sustainability. So, for example, KPMG reported this year that 93% of the world's biggest 250 largest companies in the world reported their sustainability indexes. So now this has become all for all the stakeholders around the world. This has become an important aspect of assessing a company before investing in it. So, for example, all the stakeholders demand more transparency in the sustainability initiatives, which of course go from planet to profit to people. So they demand more transparency in this. So how are leaders going to deliver on this? How are they going to do this reporting? So, for example, the disposal company, through our solutions today, we help leaders. We help them assess, track, and then finally create the reports around what where their footprints are and what impact are they creating on the environment, and finally what are they doing to offset these footprints as well. So one, our sustainability solutions, our digital solutions are one helping them create these reports. Second thing is that, so essentially, even to create these reports, the digital ecosystem that we have today, it has facilitated, in fact, Vikas ji and Chintan ji just mentioned that today you don't have to go somewhere to actually do these audits in a person. So today we are able to do these audits online. We've created solutions that work online, which capture the data online, so that it is at everybody's disposal, so to say, to learn that okay, where our footprints are, where our flaws are, and to correct them, and for the leaders to actually deliver on those solutions. So I think, yeah, in these sense that, we are developing solutions also which will be more compatible and more scalable across geographies, and across, as the companies also increase in their scale, or they increase their production for product companies, or they work in more markets, we'll still, through the digital transformation, we'll still be able to tap their footprints, tap their impact, and then resolve them as well. So yeah, that is what has worked for the disposal company.
Great, Bhagashri. I'm glad you brought the point where even investors are looking at making conscious decisions. And on the other hand, the customers, they are becoming more aware about, and they want to really pick and choose what is best, not only for them, but also for the environment. Great. Moving to you, Sujit. When it comes to building opportunities, availability, as well as accessibility, both need to coexist in order to bring any kind of real transformation which is tangible and measurable. And Shared Pro is bridging this gap and making the talent market more inclusive as well as transparent. And as you call it, you are democratizing this talent space. So from you, we would like to hear, how is the DNA of the whole employment or the talent market transforming, given the last 1.5 years, especially of COVID, and how you are riding on this digital wave to sort of tap all that is available?
Thanks, Pallavi. So to just add to what Bhagashri and Chintan sir said, one of the important factors right now is there is a level playing field for everyone now, right? From a talent's perspective, now you don't need to be in a tier 1 city. You can be in a tier 2, tier 3 city and still get the same kind of opportunities, just like talent residing in a location like Bangalore, Mumbai. And also you don't now need to have the credentials, like you don't need to be from a top tier institutes like IITs and IIMs. I mean, now you can be a part of the ecosystem. You can be, you can work with larger companies, even though if you don't have a degree also. So now companies are even providing that much amount of accessibility to opportunities to people without holding any degree. So this is from the perspective of talent. But if we talk about from a perspective of SMBs and startups, just like what Chintan said, now you don't need to kind of have a one-on-one meeting with these individuals to go directly to the base location. You can have conversations, sales conversations through Zoom calls and close deals. But one of the important factors right now is that for SMBs especially, you now don't need to have capital to kind of scale your business. Now you can actually hire multiple of people who can be working from their homes due to what work from home has done. So one of the important transformations in the talent space is the work from home culture has been adopted by a lot of organizations now. And henceforth, you don't really have to have an office to kind of scale your business. For SMBs especially, you can now hire more and more number of people to grow your company while they work from their home, residing at any tier 2, tier 3 cities that they are right now located at. So this is one of the major opportunities that this entire pandemic has created for SMBs, especially what I see. Previously, you only had larger companies who could actually work with larger enterprise level on enterprise level projects with companies like Walmart and Panasonic. What we have been able to do is we are now building a process wherein now companies like Walmart, Panasonic, they can actually work with an alternative system wherein they don't need to go to companies like TCS and Wipro. Now they can, we are creating a funnel for them wherein they can now actually trust the SMBs as well to hand over their critical projects and deploy the talent base of these SMBs on their own projects, especially in the IT sector. So, yeah.
Great, Sujit. I like that how you have started focusing on IT and how, because for you, through IT, you're moving to various industries and sectors, and the expanse has increased in COVID period. Even in the non-tech SMBs, there is now need that is there, felt need that is there to make these changes possible. Thank you. And I believe we are almost halfway through. I come back to you, Chintan. With this question, while there is a digital muscle that has got built, and especially as we've been saying this in the last 1.5 years, we're very excited as it looks like a takeoff stage literally for the whole startup ecosystem, and almost at every stage, from SMEs to startups to tech, non-tech, whatever. From your experience, tell us what will be required to sustain it. We don't want this to be temporary and just vanish before we even, exploit it completely. And what are the learnings that we need to take forward? So what is that is required to sustain it? And any learnings from your experience that will be required to take it forward?
Yeah, so I think a very important question. While things look as if they are at a takeoff stage, but one needs to take off and then sort of gain height and then start cruising. So what's the journey going to be, and what are the factors which will make sure that it reaches the logical conclusion? So again, 3-4 things which come to mind. As I mentioned, that this wave of entrepreneurship that we are seeing, especially focusing on the tier 2, tier 3 cities with the digital transformation, this is really going to be more ground up, where, and I think all the 4 examples here are classic examples where all of them are trying to solve a very specific problem and not looking at a business model and trying to sort of adapt it to Indian conditions, right? These are very ground up things, and you have to solve it in the way in which the problem appears in India or wherever it's in a smaller city or rural India, as Ankita was talking about. Now, 2-3 things are required for that to happen. The fact is that if you start building business models from scratch, as I mentioned in my previous round, that VCs are not going to fund it. I mean, they will fund it once the business model is stable. But from the idea stage to prototype to MVP, etc., there is still a journey to be done, especially if you're trying to evolve a business model, right? It may take you an year or maybe more to figure out what's the business model, which will then be attracted to a funder or a VC or whatever it is. How does an entrepreneur do it? Some entrepreneurs may have resources, but a lot of entrepreneurs, as we know, are first generation entrepreneurs. A lot of them are young, just out of college, or maybe 3, 4, 5 years of work experience. So that's where I think the role of the government and government supported incubators, central government, etc., comes in. And I think there are, again, very, very positive trends, which is, again, something that I was alluding to, that now there are, the incubation infrastructure and the incubation industry has also matured. In most tier 2, tier 3 cities, you will have incubators offering prototyping grant, offering entrepreneur in residence programs, offering pilot sort of support, financial kind of support. So I think that is something that needs to continue, and that is something that incubators need to be able to do well, right? So I think that's one positive factor there. I think the second thing which also needs to happen is the incubation, because a lot of the work in these tier 2, tier 3 cities will have to be done by incubators, accelerators, state government policies, central government schemes, etc. I mean, it's still not at a stage where the private sector can come in. There's a market failure to that extent. But the incubators have also, incubators, accelerators, other players have to become very, very professional, because now is the time to deliver successes, right? Now it's the time to kind of create startups which can then become successful, further in their journey. So therefore, focusing on the fundamentals, making sure that, the incubator staff is trained, making sure that, the teams in incubation centers are grounded. These are people who have startup experience. And now there is a lot of, and that as part of CICO, we have now started documenting a lot of our learnings through our insights team. We have started publishing case studies. We are almost releasing one publication every 4 days, basically based on our learnings of what startup incubation is, especially in the 0 to 1 phase. That's not a phase which VCs know. That's not a phase with angel investors know. It's the most complex phase when you are going from an ideation or pre-prototype level to acquiring your first customer. No one is going to, market-based institutions are not going to touch startups. So that's where incubators come in. And that's the most complex phase. And there are significant learnings there. And, as CICO is kind of doing some outstanding work, and I think that's going to increase. So our objective is to disseminate it. We want, I think there are close to 200 incubators now. All these incubators to learn from our experiences as to what that phase is, what it requires. So I think that's the second point, that, there needs to be a lot of learning which needs to disseminate fast, because we just have a 3 to 5 year window to kind of capitalize on that. And I think the last point which I wanted to mention, which is a very important point, while I myself have been talking about funding as an outcome and VCs and all that, but I think in this wave of entrepreneurship, we need to look beyond VC funding. A lot of the models which will get created ground up, which are solving big problems, will not be VC funded. VCs will not be interested. VCs have a certain economics. Till the time it's not a few $1 billion market and it cannot scale up like a cookie cutter, they will not be interested. And in India, because of the locality, regional flavors, etc., the way it is, a lot of successful businesses may not get funded by VCs. So there needs to be new sources of capital which need to emerge. Angel investors and even VCs need to now start looking at, VCs which want to kind of monetize on this, need to look at new sources or new types or new instruments of funding, which probably combine some elements of blended finance, some element of debt, whatever it is. So there needs to be some innovation and some out-of-the-box thinking there, that a lot of these businesses which are solving real problem, creating value, will not scale up through the VC mode. Some of them may attain profitability and could sort of scale up through their own retained profits, but a lot of them may need different types of finance. So that's one piece which is missing. And again, there's a 3 to 5 year window where we need to innovate. And that's where I think incubators need to play an important role, but they need to work with angel investors, VCs. They need to start talking to each other. I think the incubators need to also look at mainstreaming themselves. Right now, maybe they are operating a bit in a silo. They need to work more closely with angel networks and VCs. There are of course, this is my last comment. There are some models of, angel networks which are trying to set up local angels in tier 2, tier 3 cities. What that does is it reduces the cost of capital, right? Because if the cost of capital is reduced, obviously the return expectations also go down. So if there is a angel network, let's say in Ajmer, I'm just taking a random example, there it's a local thing, the cost of finding, the cost of monitoring, etc. is much lower. So that could be one example, but there could even be blended finance, there could be impact funding, there could be climate funding. So all these things will come into picture. I'll just give one more example. There are angel networks I know which have groups of angels which want to only invest in climate and social impact startups, and they are fine if they get a lesser return, right? So so all of these models which need to emerge fairly fast. Yeah, I think these 2-3 points are very important for it to take off.
Great. It is such a refreshing hope that you have brought in, and along with the need to build capacity and also the sense of urgency that we have this window of 3 to 5 years to leverage all that we can before things get more dynamic, and then there is a shift in equilibrium completely. Great. Moving on to you, Ankita and Bhagyashree once again. And your organizations thrive on data and customer awareness, customer education, cutting across the unorganized market segments that you work in and the spectrum of stakeholders, wide variety that you work with, right from farmers to rag pickers to individuals to brands and corporates. So are there many stories to this change, or do you see there is a pattern? And maybe you could also take this opportunity to share this with the help of an anecdote or a change story that probably touched you. We can go with any one of you who is ready.
Maybe I can go ahead. Right. Yeah, Pallavi, thank you for this question. Actually, it's quite pertinent and quite relevant. So yeah, when it comes to stories and anecdotes, there's definitely quite a lot of experiences which I may share, but I would like to bring about one of them, right? So with the help of data, and we work with a lot of data, we collect data from the ground with regards to the environmental conditions, with regards to the practices that the farmers have been following in the past. We put them into models, and then based on that, we provide advisory to the farmers, right? And what we are hoping out of that is to have a behavior change towards data-driven agriculture. Now, the trend as of now or till date amongst the farmers have been of using their intuition, a fellow farmer's advice, their ancestral knowledge. And now we are asking them that instead of doing that, or maybe coupling that with a data-driven approach. So this is a behavior change, and this is something which takes time, and this is something which takes, this is the area which takes change. Now, in our experience, initially, for especially in any new area and any new geography that we go in, it is very difficult to convince that first or second person customer to take up that kind of an activity. But through our efforts in Rajasthan and UP and Maharashtra with horticulture farmers that we work with, we initially work with a progressive farmer, someone who is more willing to change or willing to apply what we are asking them to apply in a small area. And what we've seen is that when they do data-driven agriculture using our sensors, we've seen that when they get benefit in terms of their productivity, in terms of their profitability, in terms of a reduced usage of pesticides or reduced infestation of diseases, there is a change which comes in. So especially from the farming community, I can say that this is something which is seeing is believing. And this is something which, like, throughout my career in agriculture, not just with Precify, but throughout my career with agriculture, I've seen that for this this community, the farming community, seeing is believing. And if we want to bring about any kind of change, the pattern is to have that small group of people get convinced, and then they will convince the other people around them for you. So this is one of my learnings, that behavior change is brought about by, and I said that in the previous question as well, a positive experience. Thank you.
Great, that's great. Moving to you, Bhagyashree, for your experience.
So for us, the role that data has played, essentially, it's a whole spectrum that, of the use cases. So like I earlier talked about how the data plays a role for the VCs or for investors of all sorts to actually understand the climate risk or the potential reputational risk that would come, for their potential fundings that they're looking at. So one, at the bottom of the pyramid, this data plays a crucial role for the waste aggregators, the rack pickers. So like earlier, you would see that, rack pickers and waste aggregators would focus on the high value plastic waste and which actually, like I often quote that today, if you go to a landfill, you will not find plastic bottles there because it's a high value plastic waste. But what this data has done is that now the rack pickers or the waste aggregators, they have a visual of that what is the required plastic offset for us as a company for the next month or for the coming months. So they're actually able to capture those sorts of low value plastic waste either from the landfills or in fact from the sources at times, from the households. So which one brings a behavioral change where households are actually segregating their plastic waste to give it to a rack picker or waste aggregator. So they could actually increase their incomes, and for the rack pickers to actually capture this data right at the source or at least prevent it from going to a landfill and deteriorating further. Then this data plays a crucial role for the brands and the companies working with us, because when they know that, okay, these are the kind of plastic that is going into our packaging, one, they're able to eliminate the most harmful types of packaging. And in cases where, they're not enough alternatives, so they're actually looking at more out of the box solution. They're actually taking in their customers, responses or their customers feedback that, okay, there's not enough alternative. What more can we do? Are you willing to forego or maybe add an additional amount to get this type of plastic recycled? So one, there is a more improved interaction with the customer, and secondly, it also is helping our partner brands develop more loyal customer, which is very crucial for the coming of age entrepreneurs, for the coming of age brands. Because today, with the rise of D2C brands, we've seen that every day, there are 50 new brands, there are 50 new choices for customers. So data loyalty so the customer loyalty, is a a distant dream for these brands. But with solutions like this, where they're actually able to talk to their customer and they involve the customer in their sustainable initiatives, they're able to get access to that customer loyalty. So and we have many so one another thing that important role that this data has placed, which is a long-term strategy. So today, because we know the kind of plastic that is being generated in the environment, we are able to fund projects, impact projects that can actually to increase their capability and capacities to recycle this plastic waste. To give you a very relevant example, we work with one of the impact projects in Delhi NCR, who were primarily focusing on high value plastic waste recycling. But because from last 6 months, we've been able to actually transfer financing towards this impact project, they've developed separate capacities to actually recycle waste, low value plastic waste for the companies that we work with. So I think in that sense, it will play a great role in actually developing capacities around the world, and at least in India, for the foreseeable future.
Again, interesting. Both of you talk about the behavioral change and how inclusion in who is the leader and who is the influencer. Rag picker, imagine that person could be an influencer in some way, a farmer influencer in some way. So it's very empowering to see that there's a lot of back and forth, to and fro, dialogue, communication, and both the sides influencing, from the customer side and the supplier side, each other, beautifully collaborating to create this transformation. Great, thanks for sharing that. Coming to you, Sujit and Vikas, they say all habits die hard. And both of you are trying to challenge the SMBs or SMEs. Sujit, you aspire for them to have a greater appetite for business growth, while Vikas, you are front-loading tech adoption for them. Either way, you are demanding from them an exit from their comfort zone and movement which is beyond their apprehensions and inhibitions. Quickly, what is your sales pitch?
So, can I start? Okay, Sujit?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So obviously we cannot say leverage, you should leverage the digital leap. It will be too high level words. So in simple terms, if we talk about, first we try to convince them regarding their pain points. So there are essentially 4 pain points. One is the process oriented pain point, and productivity oriented, people oriented, and there is a financial oriented pain point. They don't have the visibility and things like that. So once we convince them that these are the pain points and how our product can solve their pain point through, so essentially leveraging digital leap is basically with minimum efforts you produce the maximum results. That's the whole idea. So we try to convince them from this perspective. That let's take an example. Mr. Bimal in the opening session today, he highlighted the point of the making the tickets, going to the railway station, and now no one goes. So no one is going to go back to the railway station, because that is right now the way we are making the tickets is much more efficient way. So once you adopt an efficient way of doing the things, you cannot go back to the normal way. So we try to convince with this kind of things. And one of the use case study which we had is one of our customer, when he was talking to his sales team previously, sales ka banda tha, bole sir market slow hai, payment nahi aa raha hai, and then things like that, and the owner used to listen to all that excuses. And now with the Magenta in hand, the kind of questions he is able to ask to the salesperson with the right data set, the whole scenario changes. So the advantages, we need to just build the a critical mass of SMEs who are using the product, taking it advantage. And with the minimum manpower, they are also at par with the enterprise level organizations, because now the advantage of digital revolution is all the solutions are available at a very, very affordable price. So at 200 rupees, 500 rupees per month kind of solution, the kind of product you are able to use and take the advantages. So once we convince that chai ke kharche mein to aapka ye product mil raha hai, and once you start using this is the advantage. So this is how we are pitching it.
Great. Over to you, Sujit.
So one of the major bottlenecks in our industry is trust, and majorly big enterprises don't easily trust SMBs to hand over their projects, while smaller companies don't really trust bigger companies, because they're not aware, whether they would actually have to, whether they will actually get timely payments or not. One of these factors. So what we actually, in our sales pitch, we make sure that we bridge this trust deficit. So we, when these SMBs become a part of our ecosystem, they actually get our support in getting timely payments, in getting larger deals, and essentially growing their business from what they are right now. So we actually represent all these partners that we have, all these SMBs, and we have a larger say for in terms of dealing with our clients. So there has been no instance of delay in payments for any of our partners who are on the SMB side, and that has been one of the major tectonic shift that we have bring in this industry. While companies who are working outside our ecosystem, one of the major concerns for them is that they don't get their payments on time. So I think that has been one of the major problems that we have identified, and we try to pitch in when we try to convert each of the SMBs to come onto our platform.
Great. I thought you would say the sales pitch is not to be revealed here, but I'm glad you shared some inputs from there. Thanks to both of you. Glad that we're asking more intelligent questions and we're talking about trust building and transparency here. Coming to the last question for the panel today, and I'll ask Chintan you for the closing comments on this question. So why do you think should the startup route be the one of the most convincing ones to bring about the socio-economic and even environmental transformation that India is looking forward to? Your top 3 reasons.
I mean, I'm not sure whether I'll be able to give 3 reasons, but see, one reason is very clear, that the challenges which we are facing now and the rate of change of the of the ecosystem of socio-economic factors, etc., is so fast that it's virtually impossible for a well-entrenched corporate to make sense out of it and to change accordingly, and to kind of sort of develop solutions to tackle some of these problems. It's only possible for a startup to do it. I mean, all these challenges that we talked about, whether it is agriculture, whether it is sustainability, hiring, technology for SMEs, these are all known issues, right? I mean, it's not that, only these founders got these ideas. I mean, corporates do brainstorming sessions day in and day out, but they don't have the DNA to actually implement things. They don't have the risk-taking ability. They don't have the luxury of failing. And a startup fails multiple times in the initial phases and then pivots and then comes up with solutions. So that's one of the fundamental reasons. I think the second reason, and they're all kind of related, is the fact that you have to, again, given the challenge, given the rapid flux of change, you have to try out multiple things, right? You have to try out multiple technologies, multiple business models, revenue streams, because all of these things have to fit in. You can't have one piece of the puzzle missing and everything else solved. All of these need to make sense. Once you tackle one, the other thing goes out of control. It's an amoeba-like process. Your organization structure needs to change depending on what you're doing. Again, that's something that's only possible for a startup-like organization to do it. I think that the third important element is that we are also now at a stage where we are looking at, I kind of alluded to it in my last round, that we are not just looking at very highly scalable tech startups, but we are also looking at what in CICO we call high growth businesses, right? So there's a new type of startups that we have started defining, articulating, etc. And that articulation will throw open a lot of understanding of what is out there. These are businesses which are startup-like. They are maybe what Ankita is doing could be a high growth business. I don't know. They are using technology, but they are essentially not going to be on a growth path of a VC. They may not scale up that rapidly. They will scale up more like an SME. So it's got some flavors and features of a startup. They are using technology. They are trying to acquire customer. They are capturing value. There is innovation, but the growth is going to be more SME-like sort of growth. So what I'm trying to say is that there will be these kinds of startups also which will emerge. Again, it's not going to be something which the corporates or established players will be able to do. It's only an entrepreneur who has the passion and an ecosystem which has the ability to support all these kind of startups, which is something which will grow this and develop solutions to solve all these problems, which themselves are rapidly changing. Yeah, so I think with that I'll kind of conclude. Thank you.
Thanks, Chintan. And thank you, Vikas. Thank you, Sujit, Bhagishri, and Ankita. I'm sure audience would have learned something from this discussion today. They would carry with them some inspiration from the panel today. And thank you for this reassuring discussion that we are making more inclusion possible, more democratic ways possible, more trust building and transparency possible. And most importantly, we are all open to this change and getting ready for this change. And not only for one, but for all collectively. Thank you so much, everyone, once again. And over to you, Atulji and Rahulji.
Thank you, Dr. Pallavi, for moderating such a interesting session. In fact, it provided a great insight on how startups are playing a key role in the socio-economic transformation of the country and the state, and the commendable work done by CII-CU in this regard. We are thankful to you, Chintanji, all the speakers, for your presence and continuous support, and look forward to many more opportunities. With this, we come to the close of the 6th edition of Digital Rajasthan Conclave, and hopefully 7th one, when we do it physically, we have a more deeper discussion and engaging session.